finishes off with a flourish. And the Diamondbacks get a series win over the Cardinals. They get back to 500 on the year.
All right, so that's what it sounded like over the weekend. Bally Sports Midwest, the Diamondbacks TV network.
Cardinals are back, baby! Woo!
Some ups and downs, to say the least, for the Cardinals. And we're going to start out the show a little bit differently than we normally do. We normally would start out by talking about the offense, talking about the pit. We got to talk about the manager.
Well, all of them have been bad, so.
What did he do?
Again, put it on the bottom of the scroll, T-Bone.
No.
I think Oliver Marmol's a pretty good manager. I think he, generally speaking, makes good decisions. I am growing more frustrated by the day, by the way that they are handling a couple of situations in particular, and we'll get into those right now. Alex, I don't understand the Mason Wynn thing. I don't get it. It just, I will say this. I respect when a team has a plan. When a team has a clear and coherent plan, I can respect and appreciate it, even if I disagree with it.
So what if it's a bad plan?
It's not ideal, but at least there's a plan. I felt like last year the Cardinals were a ship without a captain. They were like there was no rhyme or reason as to the decisions that they were making. They were sending guys down. They were bringing guys in. They were playing. Like, they were just searching for answers at all times.
Then they leaked the plans about Contreras being the outfield. Yeah, it was bad.
That is not how I feel
Flaherty was
right
angry.
now. I think the Cardinals are committed, for whatever reason, to their plan with Mason Wynn. I disagree with the plan. I think the plan is faulty. In my opinion, and that's all it is just an opinion. I'm sure they've got a lot of sports science behind theirs, I would hope at least, as to why they're going down this path. In my opinion,
Sports science.
especially at this point in the season, there is no reason to be giving Mason Wynn multiple games off with a day off every single week. T-Bone's got a 3-day work week this week, Alex. He's going to be working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. He's going to have Thursday and Friday off because he's going on vacation.
I'm probably going to be
well
tired.
deserved. That is essentially the work week that we are seeing right now for Mason Wynn.
Yeah.
Mason Wynn plays 2 days, gets a game off, then a day off, then plays 2 more games and gets a day off.
Well, you know what, Wynn? I actually kind of like this.
Yeah, if it was Wynn's decision.
Underselling Mason Wynn's ability to play consistently. If they wanted to go about it, I think we're all on board with this. If you want 1 day off a week for Mason Wynn for the entirety of the season, I have no problem with it, man. I actually think that's probably pretty smart.
Yeah, great. The first month of the season, it's already put into the schedule for him. There's a day off every week.
But I'm saying, like, if you want to get him 1 game off every single week, I'm honestly fine with it because by the end of the season, he's going to play like 143 games or something like that. Man, that's fine. Like, that's pretty damn good for a guy that is, 21 years old, first full season at the big leagues, mentally, physically. There's a lot going on, especially here in July when you get into the hot months of the summer. Like, sometimes I don't want him out there playing day games. That's what Brandon Crawford's here for. Hey, it's 120 degrees on the turf. Good luck, Brandon Crawford. Mason Wynn's going to sit down there next to Ollie Marmol. He's going to go in, honestly, and just watch Jordan Walker hit the baseball half the time while he's in the, like, that's it. Just don't worry about it, Mason. You're not in today. That's not their plan, dude. Their plan is multiple games off plus the extra day off every single week, and I don't understand it. Alex, can you explain it to me?
It actually made me really angry. I mean, what is it? So that would have been and was their 4th straight series loss, or was it their 3rd straight series loss? Because they lost to the Marlins, they lost to the Phillies, and then the Diamondbacks.
Marlins. They won 2 out of 3.
Okay, so 2 in a row.
And then they won 2 out of 3 against the Dodgers. So they've lost 3 series so far this year, 3 of the 5.
But you had the opportunity sitting in front of you to win that series.
Yep.
Emphasis on the win, pun intended. It's sitting in front of you. And the player that was your best offensive weapon in that series, at that point, Wynn was 4 for 8, 2 RBIs, a triple, a stolen base, 2 runs scored. He was your best hitter. He had the day off on Thursday. And then 2 days later, when you have a chance to win the series in front of you, you say, nope, you know what, Mason Wynn, we need you to take another day off. It just didn't make sense to me. You need to win the series right now in the early portion of the season. And yeah, I understand you're trying to play this cautiously because you don't want to overwhelm the kid. Worry about that when you get into June. Worry about that when you get to July. Don't worry about that in the first month of the season to where you had spring training. You've been cautious with him. You sat him in the Dodgers series. You sat him in the Padres series. That was an opportunity to win a series against the Diamondbacks, against a team that is on the same level as you. and you laid it because you said, nope, we need to sacrifice this. And look, I understand. I won't be a hypocrite. There's other pieces on offense that need to perform for you to win those games. But when you've got a hitter who is your best hitter, your hottest hitter, you don't pull him out of the lineup and say, nah, you know what, you're our best bat right now, but we need to give you another day off because 2 days in a row was too much for you. And I don't buy the BS from Ollie of, oh, yeah, we're on the same page talking with Mason Wynn, and he understands where we're at. No.
I should have mentioned that, by the way. Let's go ahead and read that quote real quick, Alex, just for the context. It's important. I want you to keep cooking right after this, but I want to give the context of what Ollie Marmol told John Ditton of MLB.com yesterday on why they were sitting Mason Wynn, who leads the team with a .350 batting average so far this season. Mason needs a day. We talked about it. His body could use it. He's swinging it well. He's playing good defense. He's running the bases. But in a conversation with him, today would be a good day for him to have off. This is going to be a long season for him. Keeping him fresh is going to be important. Our communication has been good, and we agreed today would be a good day for him to rest.
March 30th, April 5th, April 11th, April 14th. Those are the days that Mason Wynn has not played. And I'll also throw in April 3rd to where he was just a player that was thrown into that game late. It's not okay. I don't buy it. I don't buy that a 22-year-old who has been dreaming of getting to the major leagues, who has the winning mindset you want, I don't buy that the manager's like, Mason, we want to slow play it with you and make sure you're willing to play in September, so we're going to give you another day off. And Mason walking out saying, cool, thanks, Ollie. High five for another day off. I don't buy it, and I don't like it. I think you missed an opportunity to win a series, and those build up down the stretch to where you look back and you say, man, if we would have won that series against the Diamondbacks, or if we would have won that series against the Phillies, we might be talking about playoffs right now.
Yeah, I find the whole process just baffling because you're right. 22-year-old, the guy that leads all rookies, by the way, in a minimum of 25 plate appearance and batting average so far this season. And the Cardinals constantly giving him days off. Why does Victor Scott not need days off then if we're going by this mindset? Why has Victor Scott been out there except for the first time yesterday he actually got a day off? And honestly, that one I didn't have a problem with. They wanted to give Victor Scott a day off, even though it was just 3 days ago. So he's played in every game, and he's clearly outmatched at the plate. So if they wanted to give him a day off to work on things, that totally makes sense. But by continuously doing this with Mason Wynn, all it is just getting Brandon Crawford at bats. Let's just tell it how it is, Ollie. It's about getting your veterans Brandon Crawford at bats so he can stay fresh for a reason that I don't even understand why, because the whole purpose I thought with him being bought in is, hey, he's going to have the Taylor Motter role with great hair as well.
He does have the Taylor Motter role. That's the problem.
Yeah, where he's playing all the time.
I was told that he wasn't going to have the Taylor Motter role.
I had the wrong Motter role in mind. Mine was what I believed the Motter role was supposed to be. Theirs was apparently the actual Taylor Motter role where he's playing multiple days a week. It's baffling to me, man. Also, if you're going to do this, I'm being totally serious when I say it, play Brendan Donovan at shortstop. If you're going to do this, just play Donnie at shortstop. Because if you're doing it multiple days a week, dude, you are giving up way too much. And let's be honest, Crawford ain't great defensively. He's just not. He's not the same guy that he once was, man. He's lost a step. He doesn't have the same arm. Like, he is not the same player defensively that he once was. And at the plate, he's nothing. He's a zero for you. You have two guys at the bottom of your order that are doing very little for you right now. So instead of going about it that way, hey, man, you got multiple outfielders now that you feel pretty good about out there. Go ahead and play Lars Nootbaar, play Jordan Walker in the corners, Siani or Scott. I don't even care at this point in center field. And then just bring Brendan Donovan down, put him at shortstop for you. Are you getting worse defensively? Sure, but you were worse defensively in the outfield yesterday as well. So whatever. That's the way that I would go about it. If you feel like we need to keep somebody fresh or keep somebody getting opportunities at the shortstop position, if I'm John Mozeliak, I'm guessing he's part of why this is happening because he signed Brandon Crawford, so he probably wants Crawford to be playing.
Is that a hint that he writes the lineup?
Just DFA him. Get him off the roster so that way you don't have to worry about playing him anymore. Like, that's the way that I would honestly go about this. We've seen this in the past where they had to take away a toy from the manager because the managers couldn't stop putting him into the lineup, and the young kid was ending up not playing enough accordingly. We got a text that really bothered me, honestly.
Oh, no,
I'm pretty hot and bothered today. This is frustrating to me.
Well, you're the hot part for sure. High five. No. I'm trying this new thing this week where I compliment people.
I accept it. I appreciate it. I wasn't prepared for it. It took me aback. All right.
That was just as
Somebody
awkward
on the
when he
text
called me
line
Dave
said,
during a break.
No, that
BK,
was
you're being unreasonable. No, I'm not.
Okay, well, tone, damn it.
This is so from Ollie.
BK, you're being unreasonable. Mason Wynn only played 119 games last year. He needs the days off. Him playing 120 games at the big league level this year is more than okay. Nope, you're wrong, sir. In 2023, he played 142 games, played 105 in the minors and 37 in the majors. I would be totally cool with him playing 142 games again this season. That's not the current plan. In 2022, you want to go back 2 years ago? In the minor leagues, where they get 1 day, not game, 1 day off every single week, basically what the Cardinals' current schedule is, he played on 139 games. He played 119 in the minors and then went down to the Arizona Fall League right after his season came to an end and immediately played 20 more games down in the Arizona Fall League. You want to say that mentally that doesn't drain the same amount of capacity as when you're playing a major league game? I would agree with you. But Mason Wynn is not some belligerent little kid. Mason Wynn, pretty good head on his shoulders. Pretty good player. Clearly at the plate, things seem to be not exactly overwhelming him right now. Give him 1 day off a week. 1. That's reasonable. Giving multiple is just throwing away that game. And that's not the only thing that bothers me, boys. There's one other thing that I want to get to. I said going into the weekend, and we all agreed on this, you got to find as many opportunities as possible to get Ivan Herrera into this lineup right now. Because not doing so is not getting one of your 3 best hitters into the lineup. You could argue your best hitter, situationally and by the results. Ivan Herrera needs to play as close to every day as humanly possible right now. You know how many plate appearances he had in the first 2 games of this series, Alex?
How many, BK?
0. 0 plate appearances. How does that happen?
I thought he was one of your best hitters, BK.
How? There was a perfect opportunity. I disagreed with not starting him on Friday or Saturday, but whatever. At least you've got a dynamite bat coming off of your bench for a high leverage situation, right, Alex?
That's right, BK.
Nope, not for Ollie. The Cardinals have yet to utilize him as a designated hitter.
What?
One pinch hit. By the way, it worked. He got a sac fly that was an RBI in that pinch hit opportunity. So he started 8 games so far this year, including 6 that took place while Contreras was either hurt, not available at all, or working his way back as the designated hitter. So 6 of his 8 starts were by virtue of you having no other alternative. So 2 starts were by choice so far this year. And oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure I have this correct. I think they were both the 3rd game of a series where you, again, basically had no other choice behind the plate based on the fact that you're only playing Contreras 2 out of every 3 games. That makes sense to me. That is just not the best way to utilize him. You look at the game on Saturday. There was a situation late. I believe it was the 8th inning, if I'm not mistaken. You had Jordan Walker coming up to the plate against a right-handed pitcher on the mound who was worse against righties than against lefties in his career, including last year and so far this season. And in that spot, they decided to pinch hit for Jordan Walker. And I think to myself, this is a perfect spot for Ivan Herrera to come into the game. Because Walker's really struggling at the plate more often than not right now. Get your best guy in.
That's what
high
they did,
leverage
right?
spot. It's a tight game. Let's do it. They bring in Alec Burleson.
Oh. Well, he's good.
Well, that's a strange decision, but okay, platoon advantage. Let me go to the numbers. Oh, no, again, better against lefties than he is against righties. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I don't understand this. Make it make sense. So then you continue. They go to a win next. By the way, Burleson lined out center. You go to win next, and in the next inning, you're down 4-2. Surely, in the top of the 9th inning, you're not going to let Victor Scott hit for himself in that spot. Top of the 9th inning, you're definitely going to, because your lineup's about to roll over. Let's go to Ivan Herrera in this spot, right? Nope. They decide to keep Victor Scott in the game and do not use Ivan Herrera as a pinch hitter in that spot. Again, down 4-3 with the top of the lineup getting ready to come up. No surprise to anybody, Victor Scott ended up flying out. I don't get it, man. The usage of the roster doesn't make sense to me. And none of this matters. None of this is to, like, we'll get to some of this stuff too. Goldie Arenado, they got to hit. Pitching's got to be a little better. You can't blow up Miles Michaelis. You can't blow up Steven Matz. You can't have these 1 innings where everything goes to crap. All of that is also true. But on top of that stuff, there are decisions that the manager can make to give you a better ability to win these games. He's not doing that right now in certain spots, man. I think his bullpen usage has mostly been fine this year. a couple of spots where you can argue with it, but whatever. Like even yesterday, I know people are mad about the Andre Palante decision. You don't have a good option there. Like it's a tough spot. Your starter is supposed to go deep into a game. He couldn't find a way through that inning. You got to navigate it. You get the guy out there that's going to potentially get you the double play ball. He got you the ground ball. It didn't work. It happens. It's baseball. But this stuff with Wynn, the stuff with Herrera, where I think he is leaning way too much into his veterans, the guys that he trusts, I hate it. I absolutely hate it, man, and it bothers me.
I'm feeling Mike Matheny 2.0.
Shelty 2.0 too, maybe.
Oh, man, we are on a roll. Good thing the Cardinals locked that guy up so he's not under pressure to win now, you know? Good thing he's playing the long game with the young kids and keeping them in the lineup to work through their kinks.
To that point, I thought this contract extension was supposed to be where he didn't do this, but apparently no.
Well,
apparently
he's worrying about the future, T-Bone, and you don't want to break Mason Wynn's confidence.
And by the way, we talked about how the front office sometimes takes toys away, which, again, probably should do with Crawford.
Why? Then Carpenter's coming back, and he'll be the toy you take away.
They can't do this unless they, like, make up an injury for somebody.
And then Jose Fermin will be up here, and then you got to take that toy away.
If they're not going to hit Herrera, and my whole thought process on this, because we saw Ollie do this last year, is it's the old school NO manager honestly, old school manager thought process.
I can feel my blood boil.
No, that means not good for us.
Is they don't want to pinch hit for the catcher. Why? Because he's the emergency guy. You know, if Contreras gets hurt, well, if we've burned our catcher already, all of a sudden we're playing Donovan and catcher.
Pages up here, man.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
It's pages! Because they need to take a page out of someone else's book of how to win baseball games!
That was good. That was good.
You know what the thing is, T-Bone? Ollie's like my 3-year-old daughter. If I put her in her room and she's not listening and I take her favorite toy away, guess what she does? She forgets about that toy and she'll go find another toy to play with. You take my Legos away? Fine. I'll go find a book to play with. You want to take that book away, big man? Okay, fine. I'll find this little dust ball in the corner and I'll make it a little imaginary pony.
Yeah,
you keep playing this game. You keep playing this game and I'll one up you, big boy.
I like Ollie personally, professionally. I
hope he heard this segment.
He does a pretty good job. I vehemently disagree with the way that they're utilizing Mason Wynn and Ivan Herrera so far this year. When you are lacking so much offense, and these are, I mean, you can make a really strong argument. These have been your two best hitters, and you're willingly pulling them out of the lineup. I get it, man. You want Mason Wynn to be at his peak performance in September. That is an admirable goal. Hey, yo, let's get some off days later on in the summer when Goldie and Arenado are getting hot. Because right now, they are ice bleeping cold. Why can't Arenado have a day off?
Well, he wants to work on timing.
It's really good, though, because yesterday in that second inning when it was 0-0 and the bases were loaded and you had one out, you had the guy filling in for Mason Wynn step up and get called out on strikes looking.
That was bad. It was a really good pitch, though, in all seriousness. Yeah.
Because Mason Wynn was probably thinking, I could hit that.
Runner on second, no outs. Newt, Herrera, Crawford come up. No runs there. Bases loaded, one out for Crawford and Ciani. No runs there. Runners on first and second, one out for Burleson and Wynn. No runs there. Runners on first and second, 2 outs for Goldie. Nope. Runners on second and third, no outs. Arenado, Contreras, and Walker coming up. Guess how many runs he scored there? 0.
Surely one.
Runner on third, 2 outs. Nolan Arenado, your cleanup hitter who gets 100 ribbies a year. 0 runs scored. That is just from Saturday and Sunday's games alone.
I'm done with this team.
At least our manager's been a net positive.
Turn the end of the road on.
No, stop it. We're doing that, but not for this team next here on 101 ESPN.
The season on the brink. It's been close. They've extended it a whole bunch. They got to game number 80 with the playoffs still a possibility, and the puck then cleared back down by Carolina. Icing waved off. 4 seconds to go. And this one will wind down, and the horn's going to sound in the Carolina Hurricanes. They put the Blues season on the brink while they await the results of Vegas playing against the Minnesota Wild.
That has since been determined, and the Blues are eliminated from the 2024 postseason. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. Alex, this was always the expectation. Blues weren't expected to make the playoffs this year. Compete. Hopefully you're right in that spot for a potential wild card position. And if you can get to 80 games while still in contention, it's probably considered a success. That's basically the expectation level that Doug Armstrong put on this team going into the season. He made us fully aware of where the team is at right now in their life cycle as an organization. I heard earlier today, the morning show asked Chris Kerber, hey, how would you evaluate this season, Curbs? Would you consider this to be a success? And Curbs kind of went back and forth. He said, honestly, I couldn't tell you that I consider it to be a success. I would be disingenuous if I told you that I viewed this as a legitimate success. I'm not right now. I'm not being disingenuous when I say I think this was a successful season for the 2024 Blues. It was frustrating as hell, dude. And early on, I did not like watching this hockey team. The first 20 games or so, I came on the air and said it. I'm not enjoying this. It's not a fun product to watch. They fired Berube. I don't think he was the problem necessarily, but since Bannister has taken over for whatever reason, I think they've played a lot more inspired. I think generally speaking, you've seen some good returns from the young players, and getting to the 80th game of the year with something to play for, I would say this was a successful year. Not a 10 out of 10, but like in terms of a grade, say it was like a B for my overall expectations and where they ended up. Where would you say, Alex?
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a success, because for me a success was getting into the playoffs. Even if it was a wild card team, it was to get into the playoffs. But I will say that the season was a improvement from last year, and there's no denying that. I mean, you were awful last year. You were way too consistently bad. We're talking about them being inconsistent, but you were consistently bad. But, I mean, overall, the improvement, you surpassed the 90-point threshold, which last year you were at 81 points. You were significantly better at home. I think you were 9 games above 500 on home ice, where last year I think you were sitting at 1 game above 500. And individually for the players, you saw massive growth. Thomas, Parayko, Binnington, the young players. So in that perspective, I look at it and I say that was a success, because you changed what the expectations were from last year to this year. I still viewed it as like you needed to squeak into the playoffs, but the fact that you played to the final 2 games of the regular season with playoff hopes in front of you, that is a massive improvement for this team, and it's a building block, which I think was the most important factor. If you would have gone the opposite direction, and if you would have finished the same place that you did last year, that's where I would have felt like, man, what a unsuccessful season, because you didn't do anything. You didn't grow. Even if you had individual performances that were better, you as a roster still didn't get any better. And right now, you're potentially going to get to 93 points on the season, which 12-point difference, that's big.
I would say it's a success for a season, because I think they are going to finish right about where I thought they would. I didn't think this was a playoff team coming into the season. I thought they would be on the outside looking in, and they kind of lived up to that expectation for me, but they also kept it close to where they were battling for the playoffs, to Alex's point there. But I think you've got answers now, and I think that's the most important part. There are a lot of questions coming into the year. I know Alex didn't have it, but like, is Jordan Binnington a number 1 goalie? Binnington's number 1, and not only is Binnington number 1, you've clearly got a dynamic duo between the pipes for the St. Louis Blues. Was the defense a one-off, or was it actually bad? The answer is it's actually bad. We now have the answer. But I also have an answer of, hey, Colton Parayko's a legitimate number 1 defenseman now. Can be on that top pair. Whether you want to call him the alpha dog number 1, or at least the 1B to a partner if you find him. Jake Neighbors ends up taking a step that I didn't even think was possible. If you would have told me he was a 25-plus goal scorer in a season, I would have laughed in your face and said, no, he's a 15-goal scorer. Robert Thomas solidified as a number 1 center. Jordan Kyrou, though, frustrating for his season. He did see improvements defensively, and he's back to 30 goals. So I would say this was a massive win. And all those guys I mentioned, by the way, are younger players or core pieces of this team. The guys that didn't live up to expectations, the Shen, the Kapanen, the Vrana, the Falk, the Krug, those guys, we all didn't think they were 100% like building blocks for the St. Louis Blues. Those were veteran players that just didn't live up to expectations. And with that being in the mind, I'd say this was a massive success for the St. Louis Blues.
I would also say some of the answers that you got on the negative side of things are valuable. Like,
yeah, like the defense.
Exactly. And especially Tyler Tucker. Like, Tyler Tucker's a seventh defenseman. Nothing wrong with that. But last year, I remember at this point in time, we were like, hey, could he be more? No, he's not. He's your seventh defenseman. He can be in that role where if you need an extra guy to come up and play, he can capably fill in, give you a little bit of physicality, but he's probably nothing more than that long term. That is okay. Matt Kessel, guess what? You've got something there, man.
I didn't even bring him up. Yeah.
I don't think long term he's probably, for me, a top 4 defenseman on a championship caliber team. But can he play in your top 4? And can you be a playoff team in him doing so? Probably. I think he's probably on a really good team, a third pair defenseman, and you live with that. He's super vanilla, nothing particularly exciting about his game. Guess what? Championship contending teams need guys like that just play pretty well in their own zone. You don't really think about them very much. That's the value of having a guy like that on your roster. So as you continue adding more and more of those pieces, by the way, Toropchenko, guy that is a great fourth line player, and if you need him to, can capably fill in up and down your lineup when necessary. I probably don't want him in my top 9 going into next year as like, this is where he starts the season. But if somebody gets hurt and you need him to fill in to give you a little more physicality against the team, cool. No problem with that either. Nathan Walker, officially a part of your fourth line for the long term.
Fourth line figured out.
Yeah. Like these are all positive answers, man. This stuff matters. And this is what the 2024 season was always going to be about. They had a real chance to be able to get into the playoffs, and they squandered it. And part of what the offseason is going to be about is, why did that happen? Why did they squander those opportunities against Columbus and against San Jose? Those are the things that still need to get figured out. There's a mentality thing that I do think you still have to learn a little bit more about as we continue forward, and I think that's what the offseason is going to be centered on. But in terms of like the young players that solidified their roles for next season, Neighbors, Perunovic, I think, is going to be a part of the team in some capacity going into next year, if I had to guess. Kessel going to be a part of this team. Like, you got some good answers on that side of things, Alex.
Yeah, I think you found out who's going to be a part of this team and who you found out is going to be not a part of this team. Like, you guys nailed it. Neighbors, of course, is a top-line winger, in my opinion. I actually think Toropchenko starts the season as a top 9 forward, kind of like what Sammy Blais did last year, mostly because he's that net front presence. Bolduc is going to be on your NHL roster next season. Zach Dean, I also think, solidified just in the short amount of time as at least to start next year as a fourth liner, and you could build from there. And Matt Kessel, and people aren't going to like this, I think Tyler Tucker solidified it. I don't think Tucker is a everyday defenseman. Tyler Tucker next year is going to be what last year Calle Rosen was. He's seventh defenseman that, you know, if in a pinch you could throw him in there. He does bring some nastiness to it. But if you can notice, what I didn't mention are guys like Nikita Alexandrov, guys like Kasperi Kapanen, guys like any of these defensemen that you want to throw. I mean,
Kevin Hayes, for example, he's not a young player, but I would say this offseason, if you can get a trade for him, even if you have to retain salary, that's somebody that I would look into.
I actually don't believe Perunovic is a part of this team's plans now.
Interesting.
I think that game against Carolina solidified it. And I know there were people I know that people were frustrated because, like, what are you putting him on the ice for in this situation? You have the chance to win the game. You don't throw him out there.
But you do. That's exactly the situation he should be out there for.
That's what I said post-game. I said, I actually prefer them putting it there because I think everybody in the front office watching that said, okay, we know that in late in the game, we can't put Scott Perunovic out there. And unfortunately for this team, I can't think of a lot of guys other than Colton Parayko or Nick Leddy that I'd say I'll put him out there in that situation. So I know he's an RFA. He'll probably be back because unless you can move him, he's going to just be a cheap option for depth. I don't think he is a top 6 defenseman next year for you. I think Matt Kessel and Tyler Tucker took his job.
Oh, wow. I would have him still above Tyler Tucker personally. But I think this also goes back to a lot of the questions, and we'll get to these coming up in the 12 o'clock hour, of what are you able to do around them?
Yeah.
Like, is Torrey Krug back next season? Is Justin Falk back next season? If the answer to both of those questions is yes, it becomes really difficult to be able to find a spot in your top 6 for Scott Perunovic, most likely.
That's kind of what I mean by that. If you can move on from both of those guys, which this is like an ideal world, you go out there and you find another defenseman, and Perunovic can be a third pair with Tucker being the extra. But if it comes down to I have Tucker and Perunovic as my extra defenseman, I'm putting Tucker in the lineup over Perunovic any day of the week.
He's Alex Estebon on BK. Blues back in action Wednesday night at the Stars. Pregame coverage for that one starting at 7:30. Hot damn, Alex has a late start for that.
Oh, yeah, it's like a 9 o'clock puck drop. Don't buy the 8:30 puck drop. It's 9 o'clock puck drop, everybody.
Be sure to stay tuned on 101 ESPN for Alex's extended pregame
great
show
stuff
for the Blues versus the Stars. Looking forward to that as they finish out the regular season. We will be broadcasting live, by the way, on Thursday out of the Centene Community Ice Center. This is subject to change, but as of today, the expectation is the Blues will be doing their exit interviews that day, so hopefully we'll be able to hear from Doug Armstrong, everybody, while we're down there at the Centene Community Ice Center. If you guys want to get involved in the show, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We will get to questions and answers in 15 minutes. You can check us out on YouTube as well at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. That is where the graveyard chat is. It is off and running today. Coming up next, we're going to dive into some NFL quick hitters because we were having an interesting conversation, in my opinion, before the show today. What in the world are the Dallas Cowboys going to do? They've got a wide receiver that's holding out right now. They've got a corner making big money, a defensive end about to make big money, and a quarterback that's on the last year of his contract. How do you make all of this work underneath the cap? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN. Alex, the NBA's play-in tournament is officially here, and I am excited about it. You know I'm going to be betting on this over on the Circa Sports app, and the place to go for this, Circa Sports in Illinois. You can get the biggest sports book in Las Vegas now at your fingertips in the state of Illinois. For me, I love the LA Lakers. Alex, one of my favorite things about betting on the Circa Sportsbook is that I can bet on the Lakers at -105 on the money line. I can go to other shops. I'm looking at FanDuel right now, for example. -110 on the money line over there. It's -105 on the money line over on the Circa Sports app. I'm getting more bang for my buck. If I bet $100 over on the Circa Sports app, I'm going to win more than if I do the same over on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. They recommend that you shop around as well. You can do that with Circa Sports.
Yeah, that's the part I love about it. They are so upfront saying like, hey, go check out these other apps because we know you'll be back because of these betting odds. You know me, I'm the big parlay guy. I've made plenty of them over the weekend, and I do that because Circa doesn't keep as much as the other sports books do. So check them out. Download the app. You'll see why BK and I only use Circa Sports Illinois. If you or someone you know may have a problem with gambling, call 1-800-GAMBLER or text ILGAMB to 833-234.
Terry Hendricks here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. The Cardinals fell to the Diamondbacks yesterday 5-0 as they dropped 2 of 3 to Arizona. They start a 3-game set at the Oakland Athletics tonight. 8:40 will be first pitch. Sonny Gray will get the start for St. Louis. Ross Stripling will get the start for the Oakland A's. And the Blues were able to beat the Kraken over the weekend 4-1. They'll be back in action on Wednesday night when they take on the Dallas Stars to wrap up the regular season. Pre-game coverage starts at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitae. And then Joey joins Chris Gerber for Puck Drop at 8:30. This sports update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. You got BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. You know what that music means. It's time for some NFL quick hitters because, Alex, a lot of teams today, including my beloved Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champion, 2-time defending champs, are starting out OTAs today. There's not a whole lot to go
Rasheed Rice there?
Come on, man.
Oh, you're Super Bowl champs.
He's probably going to get suspended for 2 games. We know how the NFL works. And he'll be
Slap on the wrist. He'll be back there. Don't worry.
I'm not passing judgment either way on this, by the way. What he did was stupid. It was negligent. It was reckless. It was horrible. The NFL deals with these things, though, in a very specific kind of way. Typically, it's a 2 to 4 game suspension. And he'll probably be back with the Chiefs by the end of September.
And Kadarius Toney's like, man, what do I got to do to get playing time?
He's apparently going to be back.
Oh, wait, I got to memorize the actual playbook?
Andy Reid said today, Kadarius Toney going to be back. We're excited about it.
Do you think they had like a
Makes
crash?
one of us.
Do you think they had like a crash course on Kadarius? This is the offside line. Do not cross.
Yeah, he's down in Texas right now with Patrick Mahomes. My guess is Mahomes just put a line. He like spray painted a line. Do not pass this until I say go.
Damn it, Tony. Look to the left. There's a judge there.
I was just going to say, and Tony, remember, you're not going to see the line when you line up. It doesn't show up on the field.
Wait, that's not there? Wait,
You're
what was
watching
that?
on TV. That's not real.
That's what the judge is for, Kadarius.
My stepmom went to a game with my dad and was like, I don't understand. Where's the yellow line? He was like, well, never mind.
We've all been there.
Anyway, so
Not working today.
OTA starting today. CeeDee Lamb, according to Adam Schefter, not expected to show up. He's got a contract situation, a dispute that he's trying to get to. It's on his 5th-year option right now. It's about $18 million for the Cowboys this year. That's good money if you can get it. Unfortunately, he's worth like $30 million. Alex, they've got to figure out what to do with Dak Prescott in Dallas. They eventually are going to have to pay one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and Micah Parsons. They have already paid their young cornerback in Diggs. And now you've got this CeeDee Lamb situation as well. Can you have all 4 of those players on your roster on long-term, big money extensions starting next season?
No, you can't. And I think you're seeing teams realize that you can't have all of those guys on your roster. I mean, the Chargers are one of them that had to ship out, what was it, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams because of all of the money tied up. We've seen why am I blanking on the team that right now? Regardless, there's plenty of examples of this where you have to move on. You can't, but I'm moving on from the quarterback. I'm moving on from Dak. I'm keeping Lamb. I'm keeping Diggs. I'm keeping Parsons. Like those are my building blocks. I'll find another quarterback because I don't think Dak is the playoff performer, and I'm not paying a guy who can't perform in the playoff. That we've seen Lamb perform with Dak. We've seen Diggs, although he's been injured an awful lot. We've seen Diggs perform. We've seen Parsons perform. I haven't seen Dak perform, so I'd move on from that one and keep everybody else.
So typically in a scenario where we're having a conversation like this around any sports team, I would say move on from that player and you can replace him. Quarterback is such a different position to do that at, though. Like, I agree with Alex. I don't think they can keep all 4 guys under contract, even though they built the right way. I think they missed their opportunity. They were in their window, and it flopped spectacularly, not even winning in the playoffs. So, and part of that is on Dak. So, like, I can't even say, like, well, you know, Dak, he's good in the regular season. Somehow it's going to translate. Dude, it hasn't translated yet. And you want a big contract at the quarterback position? Like, I find them so fascinating because I don't think you can keep all 4. I think moving on from the quarterback, though, is a bad decision, but you may have to do it.
Hey, Alex, your boy, Michael Penix.
I draft him.
If he's there at 24, we know their owner is not afraid to make some controversial decisions.
I draft him.
I could see it. I mean, if you have made the decision today, this is going back to my 11 o'clock segment where we said just have a plan. You've got a plan. Even if we disagree with it, at least you have one in place.
Even if it's a bad plan, as we discussed at 11 as well.
Plan's a plan.
If their plan is to move on from Dak Prescott after this season, no matter what, it'd be really smart to get yourself a quarterback at 24. Because there's a couple of them that might be there that I don't love Bo Nix, but people seem to really like him. And maybe he can come in, and because of the situation that's in place in Dallas, he could have success. I like Michael Penix, though. I think Michael Penix is a good player, man. I don't know if he's great, but I think he can be pretty good. And on the cheap rookie deal, you're able to keep Diggs and Parsons and CeeDee Lamb. You can't do it with all those three and Dak. I think they are one of the more intriguing teams at 24 this year. I don't know that one or both of those quarterbacks will be there, but if they are, that's a spot worth monitoring.
Go back to the beginning of the season when Dallas started off so hot. We said, Dallas is going to win. The way they win a Super Bowl is if their defense is the best in the league. We never talked about their offense being dominating. It was their defense is going to take them to a Super Bowl run. And, of course, Diggs got injured and it took a massive blow. I think the way we talk about the Vikings with Justin Jefferson of hey, sucks you lost Kirk Cousins, but you find a way to keep Jefferson at all costs and you get a quarterback to work with them, I'd say the same thing. I don't think Lamb is Jefferson. I'd put Jefferson above Lamb, but you have an elite playmaker. Your defense is elite when healthy. I know it's not as easy to just find a quarterback, but I would much rather take that chance than get a subpar quarterback that can't perform in the playoffs and then have to find another weapon for him.
And I would go the route of moving on from Lamb. If I have to choose one of the four to get rid of, an edge rusher is tough. It's easier to find, but when you've got Micah Parsons, I think you still got another couple of years in his prime. You stick with him. You really want good corners. It is tough to find good corners, so you stick with Diggs. I just don't. We were talking about this in the office. It is so hard to look at the team as an example that said, we're going to take a quarterback in the draft when we have a top 15 quarterback already. And Dak's got his flaws, his playoff lack of success. He's a top 15 quarterback, man. And one of the best in the NFC, which we're not talking about. The NFC quarterback
in the regular season, though, not in the playoffs.
Again, but I am the one that typically thinks that at some point, if you have regular season success, you're going to have playoff success. And
if you haven't been able to with the weapons you've had over these last couple of years, I don't know if you're ever going to get it.
Fair. But I just think it is so hard to replace that guy at the quarterback position. This isn't like replacing a first baseman. The Cardinals will be able to find a first baseman when Goldie's gone at the end of the season. That's a lot easier to find than replacing the quarterback, just like it's a lot easier to replace the wide receiver. And if you move on from Lamb, you trade him, get assets, and then try and replace him in the draft. We've seen multiple teams try this route. The Chiefs tried it with Tyreek Hill. Granted, I don't think it really worked, but they still have won 2 Super Bowls.
I think they also have to ask themselves this question. Is Dak's problem performing in the playoffs Dak, or is it Mike McCarthy? And we ask that question in the offseason, go get a better head coach so you could figure out what you have on your roster, and they didn't, so I think that's telling you where they're going to go.
All right, the other big news in the NFL, it is going to be a contract extension for Devontae Smith. They now have 2 highly paid wide receivers, only the first team to have 2 $20 million receivers since the Chargers. We mentioned that earlier. Chargers no longer have those wide receivers. T. Higgins, by the way, a little bit of news passed along here. He is expected to play this season on the franchise tag in Cincinnati. So for any of the teams, maybe you're a fan of somebody else, wanted your team to trade for T. Higgins, looks like that will not be taking place. I do have a question, draft-related, Alex, that I want to get to on the other side. We'll get to some of yours as well. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for questions and answers, which is next here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my insurance agent, Tracy Bibb. Her and her team have been taking care of the Ferrario family for the last 5 years now, I think it is, saving money on our car and home insurance. And what I love about Tracy is her availability. She's always available for you when you need help, whether it's a fender bender on the side of the road, whether it's some type of flooding problem, maybe a tree falls on your shed. This happened to me a couple of months ago, where in the backyard, a tree limb had fallen with some heavy winds, hit the roof of my shed, and I'm thinking, oh, great, what do I do now? Called Tracy immediately. She answered, walked me through what the claims process was, and in a matter of a couple of hours, I already had it figured out. That's what you get with Tracy Bibb. Incredible customer service. But on top of that, Tracy cares about her community. I know she's running another marathon for another charitable opportunity. That's what Tracy does. She cares about her clients, her community, with her insurance agency. So give her a call today. Ask her for a free non-committal quote. Just mention my name, Alex Ferrario, and she'll take care of the rest. 314-328-4260. 314-328-4260. It's no fib. You're always in great hands with the Bibb.
All right, let's get into questions and answers. Katie Wu joins us in just a little bit. Alex, I saw this posted on Twitter yesterday from Sheel Kapadia, who does a really good job with The Athletic. He was talking about why he would not take Brock Bowers in the first round of this year's draft. He said in the last 10 years, there have been 9 tight ends selected in the first round. They have combined for exactly 0 All-Pro bids and 1 1,000-yard season. Of those 9 players selected in the first round, only David Njoku got a second contract from the team that drafted him. We have not yet reached that point with Dalton Kincaid or Kyle Pitts. So two of the 9, it's kind of unfair to put that. So basically, of the 7 that have gotten to the end of their first contract that were drafted in the first round, only 1 re-signed with their team. Those players, by the way, Tyler Eifert, Eric Ebron, O.J. Howard, Evan Ingram, David Njoku, Hayden Hurst, T.J. Hawkinson, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts, and Dalton Kincaid. Does that make you squeamish about drafting Brock Bowers in the first round?
Yeah, it does. I mean, if I'm a team towards the bottom of the first round, and I feel like, all other holes on my team are filled, and tight end is probably the area that I look at and I say, man, I need to be better here. I would take a chance. If I feel like I'm a Super Bowl contender and I'm a tight end short, I'd take a chance on that and see if I strike. But, man, if I'm one of these teams in like the top 15, I'm not taking a tight end because I have way more holes to fill than just a tight end can handle that. I mean, look at what Atlanta did. Atlanta went after Kyle Pitts when it was there, and they had so many other problems with their team. So, yeah, I think if I'm a team where I feel like I'm very comfortable everywhere else, I would take a chance. But if I'm top 15, I'll wait and see if he's there in the second round.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Alex. I think it depends on how you feel about your situation. I don't think it should be one of those where, like, if you're drafted 10th overall and you have multiple holes, to your point, you just go, oh, he's the best available player on the board. Let's take him. Because as we've seen, and the name that you brought up that really piqued my interest there was Ingram. Ingram's a solid tight end, man.
Just took 5 years to get there.
The reason it didn't work in New York was because it was a crap situation. It was terrible in New York. He had Eli, the corpse of Eli Manning, and he had Daniel Jones, who's not even an NFL caliber quarterback. So, yeah, no wonder why it didn't work. So I think if you're a team that says, you know what, we're at a good spot, we've got the quarterback, we've got the offensive weapons around, yeah, why not draft Brock Bowers? Because he could be a legitimate stud. Now, it may take a year or two to figure it out, but we think we can get the best out of him. I think if that's the case, you take him.
I don't think there's anybody in the top 15 where I would take him. Seattle, Cincinnati, the Rams, Miami, those teams, I would definitely consider it. Anything above that, I'm not sure that I would do it. I just think there's so much risk in being a tight end up that high, and he's a really good football player, but, man, there's just so much more value at the other positions. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line, rapid fire style before we get to Katie Woo. If you could cut one of the following, who would you cut, Gio or Palante?
Palante.
Same.
I think there's upside on Gio, but you're going to have to find a way to get it.
Yeah, Palante having the heavy splits and just pitch into contact, I think it's Palante.
Yeah, I think we've seen guys that pitch to contact as much as Gio, as much as Palante, as much as Michaelis. It's really hard to live that way, man. You got to live by the batted ball luck, and it doesn't always work. Alex, do you think there are any tone setters that could be available this offseason that would help the Blues?
I'm assuming by tone setters you mean like guys who have that bite to their game. I really don't think there's many that are via free agency. This Jack Roslovic, I brought him up at the trade deadline. He was traded to the Rangers. I like him. He's a centerman. I think that could be like a third-line centerman for you. That's really good defensively, and he's got some bite to his game. The trade market, I think, is where you're going to find those guys. Can you find a way to trade for Trent Frederick from Boston? Could you get Luke Cunnin from the San Jose Sharks? Those are guys that, if you're looking for tone setters, are fourth-line guys that bring bite to the game.
And final thing here, true or false, Paul Goldschmidt will retire as a Cardinal.
False.
False.
I think false as well. I think he's got another contract.
I will give them credit, by the way. Smart job to not re-sign him yet. Imagine if he had signed an extension this offseason and we were seeing this right now.
Like the manager, yeah. Whew.
Well, the manager is a few $1 million, and they could probably get out of that. They've shown a willingness to do that with Matheny.
Like Michaelis.
The player, if he had signed a $25 million extension for multiple years, oh boy, that would have been a disaster. Right now, could change, but right now it would feel that way. All right, coming up next, Katie Woo, Cardinals insider for The Athletic here on BK and Ferrario.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my team Classic Air Care that have been taking care of my HVAC system since we purchased our old home back in 2016. I've already gotten on the schedule for their spring tune-up, which is a part of the maintenance program to where they come out before the air conditioning gets flipped on, although I'll admit it, I've already flipped it on. I can't handle the heat sometimes. But they come out when you flip the heat on, when you flip the air on, they check the system, they clean it out, they look at it and make sure it's good to go for the upcoming season. And what I love most about Classic Air Care is their upfront honesty about taking care of this system. They are always out there. They're able to answer the questions that I have. And I know that when I have to purchase an HVAC system, because mine's old and I'm just trying to get through until finances put us in a better position to purchase, they know what I need and walk me through what that HVAC system is going to look like. They've got financing options for you, 0% financing for 18 months. And if you don't believe me, check out their Google reviews. They've got hundreds of them, a 4.8 rating. This one from Sue. Jack was amazing. Figured out a long time problem in our kitchen and was able to get it up working. Was thorough in checking out our radiators and checking out our HVAC system. Thorough, cautious. Classic Air Care is the best. Get with the team that have been making people comfortable since 1926. Classic Air Care, classicaircare.com.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm VK. Happy to go out to the 101 ESPN hotline as we do each and every Monday to be joined by the Cardinals insider for The Athletic. She's Katie Wu joining us here on BK and Ferrario. Katie, congratulations on finishing the 5K for the Cardinals over the weekend. How you doing this morning?
You know, I was feeling really good about my heroic efforts in the Cardinals 5K. I did it without stopping, humble flex. We're not going to talk about the pace, but what really brought me back to reality real quick was that Mike Gersh ran it in like a sub 24, absolutely dusted me. I didn't even see him. That's how fast he was. It also shows how good he is at eluding my presence. But all in all, you know, a great time at the Cardinals 5K. Even if you're not a runner, if you're just a walker, you just want to come out and support a good cause, I had a really good time doing it.
Katie, I like to picture my Michael Gersh with a sweat bandana on with that nice curly flow blowing in the wind as he's running with tight jogger pants on. Am I thinking of the right image?
I absolutely think that Gersh is a headband guy.
Yeah.
I will find out for you guys and
Please.
confirm, but I think you're onto something.
Yeah, I'm telling you, then the flow that he has. And honestly, Katie, I understand how rewarding that feels after you run like a 5K. I feel that rewarding when I walk up my stairs with two laundry baskets in each hand.
What kind of headphones?
Hey, you know, little victories.
Little victories.
They matter for everyone.
Beats by Dre.
iPods?
No.
What is it? The
iPods.
AirPods?
iPods.
No,
I'm an old man.
Gersh is a Beats by Dre kind of guy. He's listening
No,
to
wait, Gersh is a cords guy. He still has the one that plugs in your phone.
Yes.
This is why he's my favorite.
Beats by Dre, I'm telling you.
Him and T-Bone.
My man.
Kindred spirits. All right, Katie.
Headband goes over the headphones.
T-Bone gave you the heads up prior to coming on the air. I'm a little upset with
BK's
Ollie.
pissy.
No, hey, chill. Easy with that. I can't get over this Mason Wynn thing. The 2 days off per week, along with the actual scheduled off day, that it's just weird to me. But the one that I'm having more trouble with, because Mason Wynn we talked about, this is their plan. I disagree with the plan, but it's a plan. I am curious, Katie, from your perspective, if you've talked with Ollie about this, their way that they utilize Ivan Herrera, because he's one of their best hitters right now, and this is an offense that's really struggling. And Friday and Saturday, he did not get a single plate appearance, despite, especially on Saturday, them having some opportunities late to pinch hit with him if they wanted to. Have you talked at all with Ollie about the difficulty of getting that second catcher in there more regularly?
BK, it's like you're a mind reader. You know, I wasn't with the team in Arizona over the weekend, but one of the first things I plan to talk to with Ollie Marmol today is how to incorporate Herrera a little bit more regularly into this Cardinals lineup, especially with the power numbers across the board down so mightily to start the year, because Herrera is one of the most impactful bats so far this season. And it is important to get him there every day, especially that when he's shown how consistent he can be and how big of a threat he can be offensively for this club when he gets consistent playing time. So it's difficult, right? Because when you have two catchers, you don't want to burn one. You never know. The last thing you want to do is utilize your emergency catcher, who I believe is still Brendan Donovan. But you also don't want to lose your DH. So it's a little complicated because of the second catcher factor. But I completely agree that if there's an opportunity for Herrera to get in the lineup every day, if you're the Cardinals, especially when you're looking at those power numbers and the team OPS, you're trying to figure out how to get him in there because he's really been beneficial to this offense so far.
So the one that bothered me, Katie, because I'm also a little pissy about this weekend, was Mason Wynn not playing in that final game. And look, I know Ollie has said that they're both on the same page. They discuss about getting him the days off. I feel as if they left an opportunity to win a series because they wanted to give another day off to Mason Wynn, who was off 2 days prior. Right now, I feel like the hot bat should be playing every single day, and 22-year-old Mason Wynn's not going to get worn down in the first month.
Yeah, I get the angst for this decision, too. Like we talked about before, it's a plan that the Cardinals have. Whether or not people agree with it, I can see both sides, certainly. I do understand the importance of keeping Mason Wynn fresh, but you look at the Cardinals' schedule just from a calendar perspective in April, and you see those 4 consecutive off days on Thursdays. That, by the way, is pickleball day for the St. Louis Cardinals beat, so it's really important they keep that pattern. But
it's supposed to be good weather, I think, this week.
Yeah, it's going to be great. When you're looking at the overall schedule, the travel, it's pretty brutal. I mean, I'm not a professional baseball player by any means, and I'm pretty tired going from West Coast to St. Louis to West Coast to St. Louis back and forth. And Mason Wynn is 22 years old. They need him, obviously, for the whole season. Shortstop is arguably the most important defensive position for this Cardinals club. So I can understand the frustration seeing the calendar off days, but really, do you need Mason Wynn in April or do you need Mason Wynn in September and October? And I think that's the question the Cardinals asked themselves, and they came up with the latter. Again, I can see both sides, but this is the plan they have for Mason. They're sticking with it.
If I had to argue the other side, just for what it's worth, I would say they really need Mason Wynn for April to get to September or October being meaningful for them. Because right now, the way they're playing, I mean, they're going to need some help to be able to get there. But, Katie, I think all of this gets back to the heart of the issue, which is your 3 and 4 hole hitters that you've had for most of the time. I guess now technically your 2 and 4 hitters are not hitting. Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt have both OPSs below 700. Paul Goldschmidt is batting below 200 now. His one extra base hit, if I'm not mistaken, was opening day. It was the home run that he hit. What if those guys don't start hitting? None of the rest of this matters, right?
I agree. And when you look at the team OPS across the board, it's 665, right? They interplay today with the 8th lowest team OPS in Major League Baseball. But when you're looking, and I use OPS to kind of measure the overall quality of at bats. If I just need to look at one stat, I'm going through something to see, I'm looking at a player's OPS to see kind of how they're feeling. So when you're looking at contributors for the Cardinals, you obviously think Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado. And you're thinking those guys need to bring the power because they do. To an extent, you're also looking at Gorman, Contreras, Walker, and Nootbaar, but we can exclude Nootbaar from this. He's played in just 3 games. If Goldie and Arenado aren't contributing the power numbers that they're expected to, and yes, they're going to be held to a higher standard based on the players they are and what they've accomplished in their career and what they mean to this franchise. If they're not contributing the power numbers that they need to, it's shown early, at least to me, that there's not a source of consistent power left in the Cardinals lineup, and that's a big problem. We've seen it really since opening day. The Cardinals have a hard time scoring runs when Goldschmidt and Arenado aren't clicking. I thought it was great to see Nolan get a hold of one on Friday. He had that patented one-handed finish, that power swing that we haven't seen. Looks a lot more like the Nolan Arenado we know and love. But Goldschmidt seems like he's searching too, especially on the off-speed offerings. So really, and you hate to put all of the expectations on two players, but if you're looking for consistent power, that's why Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado are in the middle of your batting order. So I don't think it's unfair to say that these two guys, and they know it, and they'd be the first to say it, need to start turning it around. Do I think they will? Absolutely. Their careers speak for themselves. But when they're not clicking, it really emphasizes the lack of consistent power opportunities throughout the Cardinals lineup, and you're seeing that with their offensive performance so far this month.
Do you think those two's struggles, Katie, is also part of the reason why this team is struggling with runners in scoring position? It just seems like they're always searching for that big hit, and they're not coming up with it.
I agree. And I was going through the numbers because it seems like I watched all three games, obviously, from on TV, and it seemed like every time the Cardinals had the bases loaded, nobody scored. And I looked, and I just kind of wanted to see where the Cardinals ranked in terms of leaving runners in scoring position on base. They're actually right at league average. It doesn't feel that way, though, because lately, whenever they have a prime scoring position, bases loaded, runners on second and third, one out, no outs, nothing really comes through. So I think that's also being compounded by the fact that Goldschmidt, Arenado aren't hitting consistently. Contreras is working back from his bone bruise. I think Nootbaar will be helpful. It's nice to see Gorman get that OPS over 705, start to figure him out a little bit. And Walker, too. You know, it's been a slow start for Jordan Walker. He's definitely part of that whole power process. So, again, Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, they're going to take the brunt of the frustration here because of who they are in their careers and what they mean to this franchise. But throughout the lineup, the power numbers have been down, and the ability to cash in runs when necessary are also down. And if the things were different, I think you're looking at a much better record overall over the first 2.5 weeks of play.
Yeah, Cardinals have scored 3 or fewer runs in 10 of their 16 games so far this year. That is not where you want to be as a team. Only the Chicago White Sox have scored 3 or fewer runs more often this year than the Cardinals. For what it's worth, Cardinals do have a .200 winning percentage in those games, which is actually among the top 10 or 12 in Major League Baseball. Katie, I did want to ask you, Katie Woo is our guest here, by the way. You could read her work over at The Athletic. Follow her on Twitter at Katie J. Woo. One of the things that I'm curious about in terms of their decision-making with the lineup over the next week or so is how long are they willing to commit to defense at the expense of offense? And that means Michael Ciani / Victor Scott starting in center field. I've liked the decision. I said all along, I think this is what they should be going for. They did not have good outfield defense at all, to put it lightly, a year ago. And I think it's smart that they decide to commit to that this season. But right now, with the offense being what it is a question that a lot of people are asking. Do you think they will eventually decide to go with more offense and maybe move Lars Nootbaar over to center at the expense of their defense?
I don't think so, only because we've seen how many runs already defensively the outfield has saved this Cardinals pitching staff, which actually has looked pretty good so far. But it does, again, underscore the need for more offense. Look, we knew when Victor Scott came up that he was going to struggle a little bit offensively. I mean, he's going straight from Double-A. He wasn't projected to make the opening day roster. He's here out of necessity. Maybe didn't expect him to struggle this much, but considering the overall scenario, sure, it makes sense. I don't think the Cardinals were expecting Jordan Walker to struggle offensively like this to start the season either. But I still think the Cardinals are going to prioritize at least as close to elite defense in center field as possible. And while I think Lars Nootbaar is a fantastic corner outfielder, I'm not sure the organization feels that he is as fantastic as a center fielder. I think they still prefer to keep him away from center field. So I do think the Cardinals, for as long as they can, are going to rock with either Scott or Ciani in center field and just kind of fill the gaps. But really, again, not to beat a dead bush here, it goes back to the importance of your heart of the order finding ways to contribute, because we're not talking about maybe switching up the defense if the Cardinals offense can find their way back to at least league average.
Katie, we'll get you out of here on this. You are born and raised in the Bay Area. You know the Oakland Athletics story, their history, everything that's kind of gone into where we are today. What's it going to be like for you as somebody from that area to be able to go back to the Coliseum this week for, I think this will be your final time covering a game there potentially? What's that going to be like for you?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie, guys. Look, I try to go to as many of the California trips as I can just because my family is out here. But when I saw that the A's were coming to Oakland, this was one of the first trips I signed up for because it will be the last time I come to the Coliseum. And it makes me sad. You know, I grew up a Giants fan. I was always rooting against the A's as a kid. That's just what you do. But there's a lot of fond memories going to the Coliseum because when I was a teenager, going to A's games was affordable. You know, when I was in high school, the Giants were in their peak of their even year dynasty, so tickets were super expensive. My friends and I would go to A's games, and it was just kind of like old school classic baseball, and I had a lot of good times at the Coliseum. It's really disheartening. I think if a city, a fan base knows what it's like to have a professional sports team ripped out of their clutches and then cite a fan base inaccurately as the reason why they can't stay, like that's really unfortunate. So it will be emotional. The Coliseum has, again, a lot of good times, a lot of fun times, a lot of tailgates. Obviously, I was of legal drinking age. And
Obviously.
That away, Katie.
obviously, gotta plug that in there. I don't know. It'll be symbolic, I think. It'll be sentimental. I have a bunch of family coming to Wednesday's game, so that will be great. So hopefully it'll just be a good series. And as disheartening and frustrating as it is that the A's are leaving Oakland, I'm hopeful that this series can, I don't know, bring some closure to me in the fact that this team is leaving the Bay.
Well, they're playing some decent baseball right now. They started out the season 1-7. They are now 7-9, and they've got some decent pitching that the Cardinals are going to see in this series. So that certainly should be interesting for all of us to monitor from afar, and for you to monitor while you are there. Katie will be interested in hearing what you get in your answer from Ollie Marmol when you talk to him about the catcher situation a little bit later on this afternoon. Enjoy your time back in your home area. We'll talk with you again next week, Katie. Always appreciate this.
You got it, guys. Thanks so much.
You got it. It's Katie Wu, Cardinals insider for The Athletic. Appreciate her time as always. I want to get back into the Cardinals' decision on defense versus offense coming up on the other side, Alex. It's something that's really coming to the forefront, I believe, until they figure out what they have with Goldie and Arenado. If those guys don't start hitting, eventually you will have to trade defense for offense. When does that time come? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Why can't they just say, hey, listen, until we get Goldie and Nato going, we do need to play for a little more offense. So why not in that scenario say Lars Nootbaar's going to play center for a little bit or occasionally or 3 times a week or whatever? I mean, he played center field in the World Baseball Classic and it was fine. At a time when you need offense, it doesn't make sense to me to take one of 4 guys that you're going to need in the lineup and leave them out for a guy that's not hitting at all.
That was Kevin Wheeler, first man that I worked with. By the way, I saw a post earlier today.
Were you going to say first man that I loved?
Professionally.
I heard an L come out, and I thought that was me, man. I even called you hot in the open. What are we doing here?
A little bit of sentimentality here. My first day on the air at 101 ESPN was 8 years ago today. 8 years ago today was the first time that I got an opportunity on air, and it was with
Pretty cool.
Kevin Wheeler. 8 years later, here we are.
You mark your
Number one
calendar?
show. Number one show. No, I saw
He
it.
texts Wheels every year, and Wheels like, who the bleep is this?
You know when you
Heard of
log
this
into
number.
Facebook, there's like a, hey, on this day,
Oh,
whatever.
remember?
Yeah, one of those
I was
things.
going to say, because I was like, damn, I have no idea when my first day was on
That's
there.
the only reason I knew it. So, yeah.
I think I know either.
Now, here we are, first place in our
You're a
target demo
weirdo.
over the last 3 months. So, that's nice. All right. So,
Take a picture
You're
of it so I
welcome.
remember.
that was Kevin Wheeler on the best podcast in baseball. He does that with Derek Gould occasionally. Thought it was a really interesting point, Alex. I'm not sure I agree with it, but an interesting point nonetheless. No, I'm actually being totally serious.
This
I think
is
there's
why
a
Wheels dropped
strong
you.
argument that Kevin Wheeler, what he said there, where you have to trade offense for defense now, is totally valid while Goldie and Arenado are struggling the way that they are. I get it. I don't blame him for having that opinion at all. In fact, it's probably the right opinion. I just would lean defense because it was such a huge issue last year. And my fundamental belief of the Cardinals, the way their roster is constructed, man, it doesn't matter what whoever that outfielder is does unless you get Goldie and Arenado going. The entire construct fails if those two aren't going to get this thing back on track and do so quickly. Derek Gould presented the other viewpoint on this. I think it's worth hearing both, and then I want to get your thoughts on this, Alex, on if it's worth it to trade offense for defense by playing Nootbaar in center and putting probably Donovan in left and getting both of your catchers into the lineup on a basically everyday basis for the foreseeable future. Here's Derek Gould's thoughts on the potential issue.
How committed are you to being elite defensively when you're struggling offensively? How committed are you that the offense is going to come around and you believe it will and doesn't need some kind of knee-jerk response? How concerned are you about the offense given that it's not just the small sample size of this season? These are the questions that they are asking or that they are answering with their actions.
I look at this as what you had said, BK. I understand where Wheels is coming from of trying to take out the defense so you get the hot bats in there. But as I stated when we were arguing about Victor Scott making the team or not making the team, if Arenado and Goldschmidt don't get going, this team is bleeped. It doesn't matter. So, sure, we want Ivan Herrera in the lineup, and guess what? That might mean we have to take Goldie out and put him at first, or put Contreras at first base, and you're taking away the defense there because you want the hot bats in. Fine if you want to just win here and now, but you're not going to do anything this season if Goldie and Arenado are bad. And I fall into the category of, look, if you're taking your best players out of the lineup because you want them to get right, they're not going to get right because you're delaying the inevitable of these guys just might not have it anymore. And pulling them out of the lineup so we could put offense in there and take away defense. Yeah, your bats are great, but how many runs are you giving up on the defensive side because you don't have those players in the lineup? If you move Gorman over to third base because Arenado's not right now, how much does that take away from your defense, and how many times are these games getting out of hand, and what happens when those hot bats disappear? So you're not doing anything this season unless Goldschmidt and Arenado get back to MVP level. So I ride it out with those guys.
And to be fair, I'm not talking about taking Goldie Arenado out of the lineup. I'm talking about taking Scott out of the lineup.
Right.
That would be the decision. The decision is your outfield now becomes Donovan, Nootbaar, and Walker. So you are objectively significantly worse, in my opinion, in the outfield defensively than you would be. The combination is Donovan and Nootbaar versus Nootbaar and Scott.
Yeah.
And the combination offensively is Donnie and Newt and Scott versus Donnie and Newt and Herrera. So it's basically, what is more valuable, Herrera as your designated hitter with Scott in center, or excuse me, Scott in center field with Donnie as your designated hitter, or Nootbaar in center field with Herrera as your DH. Those are the two combinations that you could look at.
To me, those are washes. I understand Herrera's bat's hot right now, but Nootbaar is what you hope Herrera gets to, and Donovan you want in the lineup no matter what, right?
So it's
Donovan and Nootbaar, or Nootbaar and Herrera.
So Donovan's in no matter what. It's a matter of him being in at left field versus DH.
Right.
He's going to be in every day no matter what.
So we're talking defense.
Nootbaar's going to be in every day no matter what, but it's a matter of defensively, are you going to have him in left or in center? It's really offense/defense is Scott versus Herrera. Who is better to be in that lineup on a day-in, day-out basis? You lose defense by pulling Scott out. You gain offense in that scenario. So it's 6 to 1, half a dozen to the other in some ways.
You're still going to be talking about Goldie and Arenado, though.
Correct. And that's my whole thing is I'm not giving up on this plan yet. I think there will come a point in time when you have to. There's going to be a point in time in the next week or two where you say to yourself, okay, we got to plan for the worst case scenario here, which is that a Goldie and Arenado might just be average this year. That's a very realistic outcome, is that they're 10% above league average offensively, that their rebound might not be getting back to 20 to 30% above league average. It's just they're pretty good hitters without a whole lot of pop. And in that scenario, what does that mean for us? How do we make up for their lack of power, for their lack of 800 plus OPSs? And in that scenario, you cannot play Scott anymore. You have to go to Lars Nootbaar in center field, despite what that means for you defensively, and you just have to live with that. And you have to say we are committing entirely to our offense, and let's see what that looks like. Because at that point, you will have seen this version of the team fail, because they just can't score enough runs right now, guys. They are not. They're scoring 3 runs regularly or fewer. And with this pitching staff, they've been better for the most part. Bullpen's been pretty good. Rotations basically done their job. These blow-up innings are a problem, but otherwise they've been solid. They can't win games regularly with 3 runs or fewer. They're not constructed that way. So eventually you're going to have to make this switch if these guys don't get going. I don't think that day is today. I would still continue to run out my best defensive version of the lineup, which includes a stud defensively in center field, for the next week. After that Milwaukee series is over, that's when I potentially make the switch.
I'm with you, and I'd even go a little longer. I'd go the Arizona series. I think the end of the next homestand is when you make that, because that's a month into the season when they've started then. And then I don't even think you go full commitment to what we're talking about. I think what you do then, if you're the Cardinals, if you're still not getting this offensive production that we're talking about, and you do have to start sacrificing some of this defense for offense, I think it's as simple as this. I look at the rotation, I say, who are the guys that need the best defense behind them? Michaelis and Gibson. Those 2 guys start, we're going with this defensive-oriented first lineup. The guys that carry more swing and miss, the Steven Matz, the Sonny Gray, Lance Lynn, who's got some swing and miss as well. We're going to go to this more offensive-minded set. Go 50-50. Yeah. Go 50-50 for the time being. And, of course, some of this will change because at some point guys will actually need days off. So kind of go with this 50-50 split. See if then guys start figuring it out. I don't think you go full, we are going scorched earth, offense mind only. As Ollie would say, we've been there, done that. I don't think you go full scorched earth on that until you get to about the middle of May. I think if it doesn't get righted by
that time, you might be out of it, though.
I don't think they're bad enough to completely fall out of it. That's the thing. It's and the schedule will kind of soften up a little bit as we get going now that they've gotten past the harder part, I would say. I think you just go split it 50-50 for about 2-3 weeks if you continue to struggle after the next homestand. And then if it is still a problem, then you have to go full scorched earth, and you have to say we have to go offensive-minded.
We did get this text from the 314. Guys, playoff teams don't depend on just 2 guys to hit. If you have to depend on just the 2 players to perform in order for you to win, then the team was screwed from the very beginning. I reject that. I disagree with it. I think Atlanta and the Dodgers do not depend on 2 players to hit. That's it. In the National League, every other team, if I told you this year, hey, Bryce Harper and Trey Turner aren't going to hit for the Phillies, what happens to them? They win 75, 80 games. If I tell you right now, hey, this year for the Arizona Diamondbacks, Corbin Carroll's not going to hit and Christian Walker's not going to hit, that team misses the playoffs entirely. If I tell you this year for the San Diego Padres that Fernando Tatis Jr. and Manny Machado aren't going to hit, guess what happens? That entire construct fails. this is how it works. If you are a team that is not the best of the best, and your top two guys in your lineup fail to meet expectations, then your team will fail to meet expectations. I've used a number of times the Texas Rangers as the example of this. 2 years ago, for the Rangers, Semien and Seager, there were some injury issues there, but they just didn't reach their expectations offensively. And accordingly, the team wasn't all that good. Now, there was some other stuff context-wise that's important here, whether it's pitching or the defense, a couple of guys that emerged as like breakout candidates in 2023. But really, the story of the 2023 Rangers was Semien and Seager got back to being MVP caliber performers. And that carried them offensively. And so you get to the end of the season, they're hoisting the trophy, right? Like that's how that works. And so for the Cardinals, yes, it does sound reductive for us to come on the radio and say, hey, if these two guys don't hit, nothing else matters. I understand how that can sound A, negative, and B, reductive. But also it's true. Like, if I have a car that is operating pretty well today and suddenly tomorrow the engine falls out, I still have a car.
T-Bone's been there.
The car exists. Guess what? It doesn't drive any longer. I've still got everything else. Like, the bones of it are in place. And if I get a new engine, I can make it work again. That may be what the Cardinals... I don't think that we're going to get there, by the way. I'm still holding out hope on Goldie and Arenado. But if we get to the end of the season and Goldie and Arenado didn't hit, it didn't work, they failed spectacularly, well, this offseason they're going to have to get a new engine. They're going to have to go out and find like Pete Alonso or something like that, where they can find somebody that replaces the production that they lacked this season from Paul Goldschmidt. That's where I'm at on this.
At some point, though, I do sit back and wonder, like, man, are you as a team unable to best utilize those players? Like, do you have and I hate just saying coaching because everybody immediately goes to a hitting coach. Do you have the wrong people in the development side to make sure that these players are best capable of performing at that level?
What do you mean?
Like, so if Goldschmidt and Arenado hit this decline, and a lot of people are talking about, Tyler O'Neill going elsewhere, all of these guys going elsewhere and having success, at some point, if you sit there and say what you said of like, hey, my engine just doesn't work, I got to go get a new engine, I'd be worried that the Cardinals are unable to either evaluate the right pieces to be that engine or get the right pieces, but they break that engine the moment that they get them.
Yeah, I think it's just unfair.
I think the issue for Goldie and Arenado is age. I think they're just falling off a cliff right now. And I think as they are getting older, it is clearly starting to impact Arenado more. It is starting to impact Goldie more. In Father Time, we saw it with Wainwright last year. Now, granted, he was more of the odder exemption because he was in his 40s. Man, we've talked about when it goes, it goes. Now, the part that I would push back a little to be case point of if these two don't hit, if they don't hit for a full season, yeah, the Cardinals are screwed. They don't hit for the first, 2.5, 3 weeks into the season. Are there no complementary pieces around them that can help at least prop up the offense for just a little bit? That would be my question. And that is the part that is a little alarming for this offense as a whole. Look, Goldie and Arenado aren't hitting. The offense is going to struggle. It shouldn't feel this bad, though. The complementary pieces that we talk about, Nolan Gorman with his left-handed power, Donovan and Newpart, and look, Newpart just got back, so there's not much there.
I think that's a big part of this. I think Newpart's lack of on-base, like you look at the on-base percentages for this team right now, guys just aren't getting on. The only players that have gotten on above a 30% clip, 300 on-base percentage. This is terrible. Like 300 is not a good on-base. The only 4 players that have been on base above 30% of the time this year for the Cardinals are Newt, who just got back like a second ago, Contreras, Donovan, and Wynn. And Wynn's sitting every third game. Donovan and Contreras have been really good. Contreras was hurt for 6 games there. So it's really the only guy that's in the lineup every day that's getting on base more than 30% of the time, which is a low bar, man. This is like me saying the only guy that has a 220 average or better. Like, that's the equivalent of this is Brendan Donovan. So you're not getting on base enough. Your slugging percentages are way down to start out this season. And that's the biggest thing. Like, you talk all the time about slug, baby, slug, right, T-Bone?
Yep.
2 of the guys that are a part of that for this team are Goldie and Arenado. Those are the 2 most consistent versions of that player. They have a lot of young players in this lineup. Young players are inconsistent. It's the name of the game. We've seen this with the Blues, Alex. We've seen it across the NHL for baseball. Like, it was a really tough start to the season for Corbin Carroll as well. He finally started getting it going in the series. Of course, it happened against the Cardinals. Who could have seen that coming?
We're the slump buster.
But
we are the slump buster. Oakland's about to go on a run.
I do think this offense eventually will be okay. The ship will get righted. I think Arenado's headed in the right track. Over the last couple of days, you've seen some better swings from him than we had seen previously. Goldie is now the one that I'm getting more concerned about because there's like no signs of life there, man. It's just, it almost looks like he's a pitcher that has dead arm, but with the bat. Just no pop in it whatsoever. And it's happened now for like
3 years.
Last
2022.
year and a half.
I thought he was going to lose the MVP because he lost power at the second half of the season.
So I don't know what you do. I don't think it's fair to totally blame the Cardinals' development on this. Like, they developed Brendan Donovan. He's a good player, and he's consistent offensively. Jordan Walker last year had a really good season offensively, man. He's 20 years old. This year, Mason Wynn, it looks like he's ready for the big leagues right now. Nolan Gorman, for all of the criticisms, which are fair, the guy is exactly what he was signed to be, which is a left-handed power bat, super inconsistent, strikes out too much, but's going to hit 35 home runs probably this season. And he's doing that at the age of 23. He's doing stuff at that age that we've almost never seen done in a Cardinals uniform. So the development is working. Even at the big league level, their coaching staff is getting these guys to perform basically up to expectations. Unfortunately, you don't have a great starting rotation, which means that the pressure is on your offense to perform, and the two guys that you're paying $60 million to this season haven't performed. He's Alex at Seabone. I'm BK. Coming up next, how do you read into these comments that Tom Stillman gave to Alex Ferrario yesterday in the intermission show? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. It is time for you to unlock your inner champion, and the way to do so is going to Victory Men's Health today. It's BK. I got to tell you about my friends over at Victory Men's Health. When you go over there, the first thing that they're going to do for you is ask, what are you looking for? What would you like us to help you out with? And maybe that's weight loss. Maybe you feel like you had some of the signs, some of the symptoms of low testosterone. If that's the case, they'll do a blood draw. They'll find out exactly what it is that can help you out. They're going to look into those micronutrients to find out, okay, is this a low testosterone issue? Is this something else? And when they find out, they will have the best case scenario plan for you. Maybe it's just a vitamin deficiency, in which case they can help you out with that as well. They've got 4 great locations across the St. Louis area: O'Fallon, Illinois, O'Fallon, Missouri, and in Town and Country. And then their newest location opened up just about a month and a half ago now is in Sunset Hills, Missouri. You can check out all of their plans, everything they have available to you at Victory Men's Health and at victorymenshealth.com.
Terry Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set at the Oakland Athletics. 8:40 will be first pitch as Sonny Gray will get the start for St. Louis. Ross Stripling gets the start for Oakland. And the Blues wrap up the regular season on Wednesday as they travel to take on the Dallas Stars. Well, pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario and Joey Vitale. Then Joey joins Chris Kerber for Puck Drop at 8:30. This Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, Alex had the opportunity yesterday to catch up with the Blues chairman, Tom Stillman, during the first intermission of the Blues game. This is why you should be listening to all of the games right here on 101 ESPN, and you can do so on a Wednesday, Blues versus the Stars pregame starting at 7:30. Alex had an opportunity to talk to the Blues chairman, and he asked him about the Blues offseason plan, what it entails, what Blues fans should be looking forward to. Here is what Tom Stillman had to say.
I don't want to overhype an offseason. I think our offseason is more about developing our players and calibrating our roster so that we have guys in the right age group so that when we are ready to contend, we're aligned that way. What the fans should understand is we're sticking with the plan. We're retooling whatever. We're trying to stay competitive while we build up again around our young core.
Alex, when I heard that, I had a very specific takeaway, but you were in the room. You were talking with him. There is a different vibe when you are speaking face-to-face with somebody as opposed to just hearing the audio. What was your reaction when you heard that from Tom Stillman?
My reaction was we are not going to be players in free agency. It's going to be about what we have in our system and what we can do with our players via trade. I didn't get the vibe that he was saying, like, hey, we know we're not good. We're not going to go spend money or do any trades. We're going to stick to the course of growing our young players and see what it looks like next year. When he said recalibrating his roster, that's the part that, if you remember what Doug Armstrong has said, he's talked about how, we've garnered a lot of assets over these last few years, and at some point you trade those assets for some other pieces that make you a better contender. And you heard him say there in that quote, and this is totally me probably reading between the lines, he said finding the right players in the right age group so that when we were ready to compete, they're all on the same page. So when I heard him say that, I'm thinking, okay, cool. So you're not going to be big spenders in free agency, because the question I asked was, with the salary cap rising for you in the organization, is it par for the course? And that's where he went with this statement. So I heard it as, look, we've got Dvorsky's and Lindsteins and Stenbergs and a couple of other guys. We want to figure out who they are. We saw progress with the guys that we have right now. Now it's figuring out their development and recalibrating the roster and how we see fit.
Yeah, hearing that quote makes me, I think you're spot on. They're not going to be spenders in free agency. And I think we all of us in this room kind of felt that way going into the offseason, that it just didn't make sense in their timeline. And to him saying that they're looking for a specific age range tells me they're not looking for stopgap guys either. Like, this is going to be one of those, if they're making a move, they're making a move with the intended target of, okay, this guy is, I don't know what age range they're looking at, 26, and we're looking at him being a part of the core through his age 30 season, and we have him under contract, or we'll sign him to one of those bridge deals like they did with Buchnevich when they acquired him from the Rangers. Those are the kind of players they're looking for. And it also felt like the first kind of, in my opinion, hearing him say that was the first warning of, hey, this may get worse before it gets better, because of what he said there of the young players. And what that means, I'm assuming, is Bolduc top 6 forward next year. Zach Dean top 9 forward for you, probably centering the third line, honestly, next season. If Dvorsky comes in, any of those other young prospects that they have, they're going to come in, they're going to play, and they're going to learn. There's going to be growing pains next year is what it sounds like to me when I hear that comment.
I'm over at capfriendly.com right now. It's a great little website. You can check out all the free agents for the upcoming offseason. If you go and search by age, if it starts with a 3, just assume the Blues aren't interested. That was my first takeaway. It was like
free agency?
Yeah. Those guys don't make sense for you. They're not a part of your core long term. So like a Jake DeBrusk, for example, he's 27 years old. He's at free agency this offseason. That makes some sense for the Blues. Oliver Shillington, you've talked about him in the past, Alex, a defenseman, plays for Calgary. He's had some ups and some downs, but maybe you believe there's a bounce-back candidate there for the Blues. Played in 31 games for Calgary this year. He has had some real good seasons in the past. All right, 27, maybe you can buy low there and see if there's something that can help you long-term. Nikita Zadorov, he's 28, 29 years old. Some people really like him. I know Jamie has made the case for him. He's got some grit that he brings to the back end of your team. 20, 29, maybe that's a guy that you could sign to a shorter-term deal this offseason. If the age starts with a 3, just write him off. That was my immediate reaction. And then my secondary reaction was what T-Bone just said. I think they really want to find out what they have internally first. Hey, if we've got a decision to make of, do we fill this hole with a young guy or with a stopgap option like we did this year with Kasperi Kapanen, Jakub Vrana? That was the plan, at least, going into it. Sammy Blais. We're going the young guy this time around. This year, it was leaning more towards the stopgaps. Let's see if we can remain really competitive. Next year, it's about filling all of those holes with Zach Dean, with Bolduc. Maybe next year we get to see a little bit more of Jake Neighbors on the top line from start to finish. Those are the kinds of things that I think they're going to lean even more into. That was my read into the situation is, hey, we might not actually be a cap team. For the first time in a long time, they're probably not going to use all of their cap space, and I think that's probably the right plan.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if you're Tom Stillman, you recognize what these last 2 years were, and look, we're playoff teams. You don't get the playoff revenue, and the cap going up, I don't expect us to spend $13 million next year. Frankly, I don't look at any of these UFAs or RFAs and see a significant price increase. I think... Because I saw a lot of people's reaction to when it was tweeted out that, oh, this means the Blues are going to sell pieces off and not spend any money. No, I believe they're going to spend closer to the cap than people will give them credit for, because Tom Stillman and his group has always given Doug Armstrong the ability to spend. I don't think the spending's coming free agency. I think the spending is coming via... Let's offset this contract, and if we have to bring in another contract that's an extra $1.5–2 million, if he's in our time frame and our age group, let's do it. Like the one that comes to mind, like Thomas Chabot from Ottawa, or a Jacob Chychrun on the defensive side, or even a Nicholas Hague. If we can't move out some of the money, but we feel like we need to increase, let's do that. I don't think this is going to be a, hey, Elias Lindholm is on the free agent market and he'll sign for 2 years at $4 million. They're not going to be players in those waters. There's no reason to be players in those waters, because I'd much rather see what Dean can do in that spot. I'd much rather see what Bolduc can do in that spot, what Dvorsky can do in that spot. But if it's via trade and Shane Pinto becomes available, or Brady Tkachuk becomes available, or Clayton Keller becomes available, those are the waters that the Blues would probably say, hey, that's making us better for next year. We can do that.
I'm going to ask it this way. The salary cap next year is set at $87.5 million. This year was at $83.5 million. I don't think they get above $83.5 million. They right now have, according to their expenses, $74 million committed to next year. I don't know that it gets a lot above 80. I'd be pretty surprised if it gets a lot more than $80 million is what they're spending. And I'm not calling them cheap. They have done everything they could do to be able to spend, give your team the best chance possible. They have committed to this version of the Blues, especially during their winning window. So this is not a criticism. I hope it doesn't sound like that. This is I think they're ready to take their medicine. They know they've got a lot of long-term contracts on the books. Next year, I personally believe record-wise will be worse than it was this year. That is my current expectation. Maybe that changes during the offseason. I think the goal would be to try to move one, maybe two of your long-term contracts. Even if you do take something back, Alex, that's just getting you back to where you are right now.
Yeah, it's money in, money out.
I think you're going to be a cheaper team next year than you were this year. And that is despite the cap going up.
Yeah.
And it's not because they're cheap. It's because it's probably the smart move, and younger players are costing you less. Like, you're going to spend less money next year for that Kasperi Kapanen role. He was $3.2 million. You'll pay less than $1 million for somebody to play that role next year. You're probably going to get similar, if not better, production out of
and
that
I would imagine if you're Doug, you will be looking at the free agent market. You're not playing in the big pool. You're probably playing in the kiddie pool. But you're looking for culture guys. And I know people hate that word, but that's the word that has resonated with this Blues team for the last 2 years. You're looking for guys that can be implemented into that locker room that brings a better vibe than what they've had these last couple of years. That might cost you $2 million. But if it's a one-year deal for $2 million for a guy who might want to reset himself, that I don't see them staying away from. Like, no, we don't want free agents. You're going to have to fill some spots. Like, I'm looking at it right now. You have one spot, barring any trade, that you're going to be trying to fill. If there's nothing via trade, then you might have to run it back, and I think you're right. I don't see this team going north of $82 million next season unless they're getting some type of massive trade that is a ton of salary on the books.
It's almost hard to.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost hard to add significant salary to their books unless you, like, really go out and spend.
And there's nobody on the free agent market that's worth spending right now, with the exception of Reinhardt.
I think you could make a case for some guys, but it's a different path. Like, there's different paths that this team could go down right now. If they really wanted to just like, hey, we're going for it. We think this team is better than you guys do. We think that our young guys are going to be ready to go. And like next year, Bolduc, 20 goals. Next year, we think Dvorsky's going to be ready to go. And we think Snuggerud by the end of the season is going to be joining us this time. Like, if you believe all of those things, sure, go sign Sam Reinhart. Go sign Elias Lindholm. Go sign Nikita Zadorov. Go sign somebody else and like make a big trade for Brady Tkachuk. You could do all of those things, and maybe you get yourself to where the Predators are this year, where you're a super competitive, like third place team in the Central. Is that the smart move long term? I think no. I think what they're doing is probably the smart move if you're thinking about what does our 5-year plan look like? What gives us the best chance to win a Stanley Cup at some point in the next 5 years? I think the answer to that is to take your medicine and go into next year and probably take a step back. The best answer to how do I get the best the quickest? Hey, man, that's where the free agency comes in. I just don't think that's a smart move.
And that's why I find the playoffs always so fascinating, especially for a team that's not in the playoffs, because one early exit by a team could change the entire offseason. Toronto gets bounced in 4 games, they go a different direction. Carolina gets bounced in 4 games, they go a different direction. That changes your offseason. And if you're Tom Stillman, what he said there, your plans change if Doug Armstrong comes to you and says, hey, Toronto's willing to trade Mitch Marner this offseason. Let's figure this out.
Coming up in a little bit, we'll talk about the Cardinals compared to this time last year. Are they better through 16 games than they were through 16 games a year ago? My answer to this was a definitive yes until I actually looked into the numbers, and then it really made me sad.
Numbers bit BK.
We'll get into that in a little bit. Junk Drawer coming up next here on 101 ESPN. All right, let's dive into the junk drawer. Did you guys see some of the stories over the weekend from, once again, the jerseys coming into the news? T-Bone, you mentioned one of them. What happened with Bryce Harper?
Bryce Harper's just casually wearing last year's jersey.
Yeah, fight the power.
Yeah. I like it, Bryce.
Screw your jerseys.
He's probably getting a fine every day that we don't know about.
He doesn't want his stuff to be seen through his jersey when he sweats, so he's like, I'm going to wear the good ones.
Do you guys feel like the jerseys are still a big story in Major League?
Oh, yeah.
Honestly, as the season's gone on, you look at it and you're like, God, that's ugly. And I'm like, oh, yeah, they have the new jerseys. Like, you forget about it until you're like, oh. And like, oh, yeah.
So I think the Cardinals jerseys specifically are fine, other than the names on the back. The names on the back are too small.
Well, and when they sweat.
They should be fine with that long term. That's a tweak you can make. I think their jersey otherwise looks fine to me, though.
It's not very water resilient, though. Miles looks like he jumps in a pool by the second inning.
Yeah, so does Lance Lynn.
What?
The thing that I noticed, because I'm with you guys, I don't think the Cardinal one to me don't look that bad, except for when they zoom in, I can go, oh, that looks terrible. But Arizona, man, we gotta fix their jerseys, man. They got that A on the where is it? I guess on the right side. Dude, it looks so big it was gonna fall off. I was waiting for Zach Gallen to throw a pitch and that A just flop off of his chest.
It'd be so great if it was tilted one direction to be like it's off center or something.
Man, if they're pitching struggling, it should, because they got this massive A that's making them weigh a couple extra pounds.
So the reason why I ask is because it's not just baseball that is having these issues.
Oh, boy.
Who's next?
Track and field stars are calling out Nike's ultra-revealing athletic attire after the brand revealed its designs for the 2024 Olympics. This is just me reading a quote, Ryder. Don't get mad at me. Quote, my hoo-ha is going to be out.
Yeah.
Wrote Tara Davis Woodhall, a long jump athlete who participated in the 2020 Olympics, on social media. There were others that also chimed in with very similar thoughts. What is Nike doing, guys? What are we doing here? So you're screwing up the track and field athletes' attire. You've already screwed up baseball.
You know who's next?
The NHL.
Yep.
The NHL
is
is
next year. Oh, man, you're going to see.
Fanatics is about to take over for the hockey sweaters, and that's going to be a nightmare, because you think baseball fans are particular about their uniforms. Whoo, boy, just wait. Just wait until you mess with those hockey sweaters.
Those guys don't only sweat, they just pour water all over. It's going to be like wet T-shirt contests every single night.
Dude, fans are going to be furious.
I think players are going to be furious.
6 teams.
I think
if you mess those up.
I think hockey players will be the most, I know baseball players, I think hockey players will be more outspoken than baseball players if those jerseys are jacked up. Because hockey's all about the look and the back of the sweater. If you've got this big blue note that's off center and got a little peeling on it, people are going to hate that.
I'm fascinated to know what Major League Baseball's jersey sales end up being this year. Because fans, if fans are the ones that are saying it, and this is the same jersey that they're trying to sell you in the team store, outside of Harper, you might be able to get his old one like he's doing now. I'm fascinated to know what jersey sales look like, because I haven't seen anything publicly to tell you how they are currently projected towards what they had been in years past. If fans are outraged, man, they're not spending money on a jersey. And you know what Major League Baseball could really use? Money.
What?
Yeah.
No, they don't need that.
Well, it sounds like their national TV deals aren't going smoothly, so they could really use the dough.
Call in Shohei.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll get into in or out. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. We will get to in or out coming up here in just a little bit. But coming up next, when I asked this question to the guys over the weekend, I thought the answer would be obvious. Are the Cardinals a better team right now than they were at this point last year? I want to hear your thoughts on that. 314-399-9646. And we also have the YouTube chat at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. What is your initial impression? I'm going to give you some numbers that might change that thought coming up next here on 101 ESPN.
BK, I had the best day ever yesterday. Let me tell you what it was. First of all, I was covering the Blues here on 101 ESPN. Easy to be the best day ever. But then I got home, and I got on my riding mower, and I just sat there and cut the grass. And let me tell you something. Green Envy has changed the way that my backyard looks because now it's fresh, it's green. The grass was very thick and long, so it took me a little bit longer. I can't complain about that, though. That's what I want Green Envy to do. They have changed the way that my yard looks, and afterwards I sat back, I looked at it. I even told my neighbor to come over and look at it just so I could brag about being the envy of my neighborhood thanks to their work.
You can read about their programs that they have available to you. They will personalize it for your lawn. They have different maintenance programs, standard program. They've got the Premium Plus program, Alex, which includes grub control and lime and 2 pest control visits as well. So go see what they can do for you. They can make your lawn the envy of the neighborhood. They're open 12 hours a day, Monday through Friday and Saturday from 9 to 1. To take your calls and answer any questions that you may have, give them a call today, 636-757-1600. That's 636-757-1600. Tell them Alex and BK send you to Green Envy Lawn Care. All right, so a simple question here. I thought I would have a simple answer. Are the Cardinals better through 16 games this year than they were through 16 games last year?
Obviously. The Cardinals, 2004 offense. The pitching, they got better strikeout stuff than Shohei Ohtani.
He's still been really good in that regard this year, by the way.
They eat innings.
They're not doing that. I was surprised to see they have the same record through 16 games as they did through 16 games last year.
Well, I don't know how that's a good thing.
It's not ideal. 7-9 through 16 last year, 7-9 through 16 this year. I was also surprised, Alex, to see that last year through 16 games, they were hitting as a team 275. This year, they're hitting as a team 230. Last year, with runners in scoring position, they were batting 245. This year, they're batting 230. Last year, their ERA for their rotation was 5. This year, your ERA for your rotation is 4.5. So you have improved in that regard. However, a lot of that is defense. If you look at the fielding independent, which is basically like, hey, based on the strikeouts, based on the batted ball data, what should your ERA be with a neutral defense behind you? Last year was at a 4.7 at this point. This year it's at a 4.8, actually. So by the batted ball, strikeout, walk, etc. data, it's actually been slightly worse, but the defense has helped them, which is why I think they should continue to be committed to that. Bullpen's basically been the same. 3.4 ERA last year through 16 games, 3.4 ERA this year through 16 games. So, Alex, I will ask again. After hearing the data, after
numbers,
having your own initial impression, Are the Cardinals a better team through 16 games this year than they were through 16 games last year?
No. They are, I would say, the exact same team. There are better areas of the team than you feel like last year if you're going off of the eye test, which can work sometimes. You feel like the bullpen is better. You feel like the pitching is better. But everything is telling you that they are the exact same team. Offensively, your rotation, your bullpen, they're putting you in the same spot. The one area that I would say, and I don't know if you have these numbers in front of you, BK, is the defense is better.
Oh, yeah.
That's the area that I can say night and day you are better than last year. Everything else, no, I don't think you can say that.
It's tough because all those numbers tell you what Alex just said, and it's hard to push back. The reason I'm going to say they're better is the pitching numbers, I think, are inflated without Gray. I think with Sonny Gray, if he's here to start the season, the rotation's better. The bullpen being what it was, I have more faith in this bullpen than I did last year at this point, because if we remember back to last year at this point, Jordan Hicks might as well have been blindfolded out there trying to throw 105 and had no idea where it was going.
And throw to first base.
That was bad.
That was later.
And they only had Gio and Helsley at this point last year that they really trusted. This year it's a little different. I'm skeptical of Gio. I don't think he's looked all that great, but you've got Gio, you've got Helsley, you've got Kittredge, and you've got Jojo Romero. That's 4 guys. And I think you need 4 legitimate guys in your bullpen to win. I think they've got the stopper now. And I know the numbers don't show it through 16 games, but Sonny Gray has only made 1 start, and he's making a second start tonight still on a pitch count. The offense is where I'm a little bit more worried, but I'm still going to go on the side of, based on their history, Goldie and Arenado need benefit of the doubt. With that being said, that's why I think they're a better team. Now, I don't think they're significantly better. I think they're better, but it is not enough to make me feel comfortable in saying through 16 games, this is definitely a playoff team.
So the reason why I would still lean towards they're a better team right now than they were at this point last year is because of who was carrying them at this point last year. Guys, through 16 games, Paul Goldschmidt in 2023 had a 910 OPS. He was spectacular early on last year. Nolan Arenado had an 855 OPS, and we viewed that as being like just okay for Arenado at that point in the season. And then Nolan Gorman had an OPS of 1,100 through the first 16 games of the season. So your big bats in the middle of the order were producing in a big way. And you were still at times struggling to score runs. Through 16 games last year, they were averaging about 4.1 runs per game. Through 16 games so far this year, you're averaging 3.8 runs per game. So it's not all that different in terms of the runs per game early on last year and the runs per game early on this year. The difference is how you're getting there. Last year it was, okay, we've got 3 big bats, but nobody else is hitting. This year is, okay, so like our secondary pieces are pretty good. They look like they'll be all right for the most part. Are we going to get our big bats going on at some point or not? I am more comfortable in betting on this year's version of the offense than I was betting on last year's version of the offense. Because I still believe, and maybe I'm going to be the last one, and
you will, buddy, but it's all right, man.
Wouldn't be a surprise to anybody if this is the case. But
I do it for Blues, man.
I still believe Goldie and Arenado will hit. And if they do, with the way that people are performing around them, I think this is a better version of the offense because you got the secondary pieces and you have the defense and you have the bullpen. You have other things that can prop you up while you're going through the slump from Goldie and Arenado. The thing that happened last year is at this point, the bottom fell out. There was nothing else to be able to hold you up because this is coming right off of a series win or a series split against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Then, boom, Arizona beats you 2 out of 3. Seattle beats you 2 out of 3. San Francisco beats you 3 out of 4. Dodgers sweep you. Angels sweep you. Lose 2 straight against Detroit. You're 10-24. Your season's over. This is when it happened. They were 7-9 through 16 games, and then in their next 20, essentially, they go like 3-17. Boom, season over. I don't think this team has that in them. I hope that we never have to play this back. And I don't look like a fool for this reason. I've got many others. But for all of those reasons and so many more, Alex, I feel more confident in this version of the build than I did last year's.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I don't. I just, every game I seem to go into, and maybe it is the negative point of me, if I look at this team through negative glasses, every game I go into, I look at certain areas. I'm expecting a blow-up inning from your starting pitcher that's going to put you behind. I'm expecting you to miss out on your chance to take the lead, i.e. Sunday's game when you had the bases loaded with 1 out and you don't score those runs.
They're getting so many opportunities with runners in
So
scoring
many of them, and I would argue that it's great to have the guys on base, but it doesn't really do much. It's just pretty on paper when you got a guy at second base with nobody out, and if he doesn't score.
Man, when you have him on third and nobody out.
If we could win just based on runners and
the
scoring
number
position.
of triples, by the way, that they had over the weekend.
Yeah, if I had $1 for every other opportunities, I look at it and I say, I see where the optimism can lie, but the Cardinals just keep doing the same things over and over. Don't push the runners over to score. Don't get the big hit. Blow up inning from your pitcher. Bullpen has an opportunity to close it out, and you pick the wrong guy, whether it's the manager, the players, a certain area of the game. This team is doing the exact same thing that they did last year.
We got a text on the text line. T-Bone, I'm curious your thoughts on this. 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. They said, guys, you said prior to the Philadelphia Phillies series that series plus the Arizona series would tell us a lot about where the Cardinals are at this point in the season. Well, they lost 4 out of 6 against those two teams, and overall it seemed like those two teams were better than you. How does that make you feel about where the Cardinals are at this point in the season?
I think they're behind both those teams. I thought they were behind both those teams going into those series. I think I've been the only one on the show that's been like a big fan of Arizona and think that they are actually better than the Cardinals. I felt that way about Philadelphia, and it just reaffirmed my stance. I think it is just going to be a battle in the division. I think the Milwaukee series that's coming up at home is big.
Dude, is the division good? What the hell?
I don't know.
Better than you.
So stupid.
It's better than you.
It's weirdish happens in the first month. Let's not forget Pittsburgh had this last year.
Sure.
I don't believe in what Milwaukee is, but let's give it time. But you're getting a litmus test on coming up at home against the Milwaukee Brewers, man. You got to win in your division, because what I think the series, to that texter's point, showed you.
Test now.
I was going to say, I did this last year where every time it was a new series, I was like, this will be the measuring stick. I said that Phillies and Diamondbacks are going to be your measuring stick, and you choked in both opportunities to win the series.
I think what it showed me, those series, Philly and Arizona, is, hey, man, the wild card spot, I'm not sure it's yours. I think it's I've thought this whole time, I think they've got to win the division to get in.
Can I have a different view on this?
That they had a bunch of runners in scoring position.
Of course, they had their chances, and that's a great thing, guys. We tried.
I left feeling that the Cardinals, the Phillies, and the Arizona Diamondbacks are the same teams. They're the Spider-Man meme looking at each other right now, and it's just like, okay, who's going to run out of arms by the end of it?
But they had the ability to get the job done, and you didn't.
Sure, but like Saturday was a 50-50 coin flip game. Could have gone either way. It didn't go your way, but it could have gone either way. Friday was a 50-50 coin flip game. It could have gone either way, ended up going your way. Against the Phillies, you had the two games that you lost were 50-50 games. The one game you won, you were clearly better than Philly. So, like, out of the last 6 games in which you have played, 4 of them were coin flips. 2 of them were clear on one side being better than the other. One of them went your way. One of them went the other way. I think the Phillies, the Diamondbacks, and the Cardinals are all still the Spider-Man meme. And so, like, what did I learn about them? I learned that they're in that middle of the National League right now. I still feel that way. I felt that way going in, and maybe it's confirmation bias for me. But my read from those games was, I think you're kind of the same as these teams. What I don't know yet is how you fit into the National League Central. So I'm almost the opposite of you, T-Bone, where I think the Cardinals will continue to be alive for the NL wildcard spot. And I'm still of the belief that Milwaukee's going to fall back. Pittsburgh's going to fall back. But, dude, the longer this thing goes, the more difficult it becomes for me to say that. Look, we're still 16 games in. A lot of time. Teams are playing well. And they're doing it against the other teams that are not in your division, which is not supposed to happen in the National League Central, guys. This is supposed to be the crap division that everybody else beats up on to be able to, like, pad up their stats.
Well, technically, that
ain't happening so far.
Technically, you're the team in that crap division that they beat up on.
Like 500 right now.
And maybe you're right. It is the confirmation bias, because I've just felt from day one that Arizona and Philly were better than you. I think right now the tiers are Dodgers, Braves. That is clearly tier 1.
Absolutely.
I think tier 2 is separated in Philly and Arizona. And then I think that third tier is right now every team in the NL Central plus San Francisco and San Diego.
That's
and you took
interesting.
2 or 3 from San Diego, by the way.
Because I would put San Diego into that tier
The
with
second
you
tier?
and with the Phillies and with the Diamondbacks.
Oh, see, I wouldn't put you in that tier yet.
I mean, you took 2 out of 3 against them. You know, and this is why, because, like, I think that could have also gone the other direction. San Diego could have taken 2 out of 3 from you, but they were 50-50 coin flip games. Again, this is where baseball.
You also didn't see Blake Snell, though, when you played them.
Well, I don't have Blake Snell, so that's
I
why.
would hope not. That would be weird. San Francisco.
Oh, that's who it was.
He
My
also
bad.
got lit up in his first
he?
appearance.
I think
that,
almighty Nationals.
yeah, sure.
You're in the same category as them, so that's a good place to be.
I feel like you're a better team than you were at this point last year.
Of course you
But
do.
over the next 2 weeks, we'll find out. Because at this point last year, this is when everything fell apart.
Now, coming up next, I'll tell you why the Blues are winning the Cup next year.
In or out here on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends at Rhino Shield. I got a text from my good buddy Darren over the weekend of another project that they got done. It was the metal supermarkets out in O'Fallon. And he texted me, first of all, talking about his incredible team of how they've got a ribbon cutting ceremony coming up in May. And he said they're going to have this project done prior to that ribbon cutting ceremony. But he also talked about the transformation that they're doing with their roofs and the walls of the exterior. And here's the thing. This is why I love Rhino Shield. Whether it's a business you own, whether it's a church you go to, or it's just your home, they change the way that it looks. This commercial project specifically, and there's tons more that Darren has been a part of, they take an old looking building and make it look brand new. So that's why you need to call Rhino Shield. And whatever type of siding you have, aluminum, asbestos, block, brick, cedar, stucco, they change it all. And they use a 2 to 3 coating process that works on whatever material you have, and it withstands whatever elements you see. 100% waterproof, deflects 90% of the UV rays. So be like metal markets or metal supermarkets. Be like me, who did this to the exterior of my home, and call Rhino Shield. 877-25-RHINO, 877-25RHINO.com.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for in or out. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you if we are in or out here on BK and Ferrario. Guys, let's start with this. In or out, Ivan Herrera should play in all 3 games of this series against the A's.
In.
And then I've got to follow up.
In. Herrera should be, Wynn should be, but instead, got to give him days off. Just had one. Got to make sure we keep him healthy for the remainder of the season.
He will be in all 3 games of the series against the A's.
They're going to say it's the A's, so Michael Ciani and Brandon Crawford need to get good with their bats.
Who do you think gets the off day today?
Let's see. Who
Arenado?
Walker played yesterday, right? In reserves?
No.
Wait, who
was
was
out
in for?
yesterday.
Oh, yeah, Burley was in for him yesterday.
Mine's Arenado.
I don't know. With him now starting to look better, I don't think anybody has an off day today. I don't think I'm out.
Win.
I don't think you see Herrera. So A, he's not playing all 3 games, and B, he's not in the lineup today. And you still stick with your best defensive alignment. You know, you've got Donovan as your DH, you've got Newton left, Scott in center, and Walker in right.
You got a lefty on the mound tomorrow, so that'll be an off day probably for like Gorman, would be my guess.
Probably. And then when you got the travel day, that might be the getaway day. That might be when you take Arenado or
Contreras will be
Goldie
a
out.
DH that day.
Yeah. And that's probably when you give Arenado a day off, is the last game of this Oakland series.
So who's getting the day off today?
Nobody. Next question.
So no Ivan Herrera,
No, Ivan Herrera.
because he caught yesterday, so he's ineligible to be in the lineup today.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So we
Alex,
finally
we're
got to that question
focused on-
that he originally asked.
We're focused on defense, BK. Brandon.
Yeah, Brandon. It's not your job, Brandon.
I'm out too, but I hate it. He should be in your lineup every day. While these guys aren't hitting, you need somebody that is. And man, Ivan Herrera is not just good. That guy's awesome. That guy rocks. I love watching him hit right now. By the way, Cardinals tickets are cheaper right now than go to the Oakland A series against the Cardinals. Just wanted to throw that out there. Alex.
At least Oakland
Yeah, I'm
sells
not kidding.
out.
The tickets to go to the Oakland Coliseum tonight are more expensive than the tickets later this week to go see the Cardinals play against the Milwaukee Brewers. And that is a weekend series. This is a weekday series.
At least Oakland sells out.
It's weird. Alex?
Double meaning. Get it, sell out, move out. You guys got it. In or out?
3,000 fans in the stands. The other day.
In or out? Jordan Kyrou showed you enough down the stretch to give him one more year.
You're not going to like my answer on this. In. I want to see one more year. If you're going to trade somebody this offseason, if you're not re-signing Pavel Buchnevich, this is the year that you do that. Now, this entire conversation changes if, like, Brady Tkachuk becomes available. If you can upgrade from Jordan Kyrou's spot in the lineup, and it's not a, like, you got to squint and wink and, like, turn your head to the side to be able to see that it is an upgrade, sure, go do that. Absolutely. You should always be looking for those opportunities. But if it's I'm trading Jordan Kyrou because I don't want him to be around any longer, I would just keep him around for one more year. So he showed me enough, yeah. In.
I think I would say in, too. Hearing the Tom Stillman quote of looking with our core and, you know, kind of feeling like it's going to get worse before it gets better, I'm kind of with PK. I don't know how it's hard to replace his 30-goal production because it's a lock every year. It's a lock that Kyrou's going to get to 30 goals. Now, he is best suited to be a second-line player, not on the top line. But I think you lock it in and you see if it clicks with the next head coach, assuming it's not Bannister.
Yep. I'm out on this one. I think despite the way he finished, which we'll talk about in the next segment, I think they're going to be looking for upgrades.
T-Bone?
Guys, in or out, and I'm bringing this up because it's partially a sore subject, Mason Wynn will be top 5 in Rookie of the Year votes.
Well, he can't. He's not going to have enough playing time.
That will hurt him.
Yeah.
There will come a point in time during the rookie. Maybe that's what it is.
They don't want to do don't you get a draft pick though with it?
There's literally zero downside to it. They're already going to have him in the big leagues.
Somebody didn't tell Mo.
We don't want him to get a big hit, you know?
They'll probably send him down for 6 weeks so that way they can play. I'm kidding, by the way. They're not going to do this.
No,
This
they
is
got to
not
get
something that the
launch
Cardinals
angle
do.
on the ball. Got to make sure he can hit it in the air, and he's hitting too many on the ground right now. Out.
I'm out.
I think you should.
Because of the games. I do think that's going to end up coming back to hurt him. Right now, he's got the numbers, though. If he keeps hitting like this.
And the moves, like Jagger.
He's just so much fun to watch, man.
Yeah,
I think he's my favorite player to watch on
Well,
this team.
congrats on BKOing the guy because you say he's your favorite player, and I was like, no, we can't play him.
I'm going to say I'm out because I think, one, the games could eventually end up hurting him. I also am not sold on he's going to be this much of an offensive threat for the full season. I think he's still going to be really good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying he's going to start hitting 210. I still think he's like a 250 hitter.
It's a lot of the batted ball luck that's taking place right now for him. It's the seeing eye singles. I do like seeing, though, that especially at a ballpark like Arizona, he's able to take advantage of the massive outfield, the amount of space that's out there. When he hits one into an alley, he's got a chance for a triple. I think I underestimated his speed. That dude is fast as hell on the bases.
Yeah.
Like, we talk so much about Victor Scott.
We knew that, though, from his ability in the minors.
Sure. I think I paid so much attention to the speed, though, from Victor Scott that I underestimated the ability that Mason Wynn also has. If Victor Scott's an 80 grade speed guy, Mason Wynn's like a 70. I mean, he's a really good player. So, yeah. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. In or out, guys, the Royals are better than the Cardinals.
In.
We don't have to get into that. In or out?
Why'd you bring it up then, man?
T-Bone consumes more seltzers than hot dogs this summer.
Out. That's Alex.
I hate seltzers.
If you go seltzers v. hot dogs for both of us, I win that conversation.
You'll have more seltzers than Tanner has hot dogs?
Golfing weekend begins this weekend, so...
Yeah, that's true. And, it'd be weird if I ate a dog while golfing, so...
No, I do that too, man. I do that on the turn. 9 to 10, you do that.
Oh.
Problem is you got to keep the hot dog down from 10 to 18. That's the struggle.
Guys, in or out, the Cardinals will be buyers at the trade deadline.
Out.
I'm in.
I think I'd say into. Again, I don't think they're bad enough to fall out of it, unlike last year. Last year, they were bad enough to fall out of it.
Same record as last year at this point.
I know, but again, I
think they have a lot more similarities to this year's Blues than they do last year's Cardinals. In terms of, they'll be in it. Yeah. I don't know that anybody will believe it, but they'll be in it.
I'd agree with that. I just can't see this team falling completely out of it. There's too many good pieces on here, and again, though the numbers are very striking, I do think they are better on paper.
In or out, if the Cardinals get swept by the Oakland Athletics, it will be panic time officially in St. Louis. That will be when you feel like it is last year all over again.
Yeah.
If you get swept there and you've got Milwaukee coming in for a series when Milwaukee is playing good baseball with Arizona coming in after that, then it will be panic time. Agreed. In.
Yeah, I'd say in as well.
I will be sounding those alarms.
Guys, in or out, Mason Wynn will finish the season as the Cardinals' leadoff hitter.
Well, Cardinals won't do it. I'd say in, but Cardinals won't do it, so out.
I'd say out just because you've got two better options for on base in Donovan and Nootbaar.
I wonder what they do against Sears with the lefty on the mound.
I'd love to see
I'd
it.
stick with Donovan still. Now, what you do, they're going to put her. That's the game they'll put Herrera in the lineup.
Sure.
I don't know how they'll do it, but he'll
Gorman
hit
will be out.
up high.
Donovan will be at second.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and they'll hit Donovan at leadoff, and they'll probably put Herrera 5 and push Contreras to 3 would be my guess. I think that's what they would do. I think that's what they did last time.
Would you consider putting Mason Wynn 6 there?
6, yeah. I think there's an argument to be had to put him at 6 and then put Nootbaar at, I guess, 7.
Yeah, it's just tough. You've got, theoretically speaking, a lot of good options, but they have to hit. And
Is he going to be able to play, though, after
They're good on paper.
playing 2 days in a row?
It's a good question. Alongside Alex Ferrario and Tanner Hendrickson, I'm Brandon Kiley. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll hit the BK and Ferrario Rewind, and we will give you an opportunity to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game for the Cardinals versus the Diamondbacks. We'll get into that coming up at 1:45, so tell all your friends. Tune in, Cardinals Bud Bash ticket giveaway. You just can't get these tickets anywhere. They're expensive on the secondary market. Tell all of your buds.
There it is.
Bud Bash ticket giveaway coming up in 15 minutes. Coming up next, is Drew Bannister the right man for this job? We'll talk about it next year on 101 ESPN.
Alex Ferrario with you to talk about my friends at Ted Drew's, the famous frozen custard off of Chippewa that is having their 95th anniversary celebration this month. Thursday, April 25th from 3 to 7 off of that famous location off of Chippewa. It costs you nothing to get in. And here's what you can expect. 95-cent Ted Drew's cones. You've got local food around, family-friendly activities. Community support is going to be there, and tons of charities involved, including including Cardinal, Glen, and St. Louis Area Food Bank and Stray Rescue of St. Louis. It's an opportunity for Ted Drewes to show all of its longtime customers a thank you for celebrating them for 95 years. So get on out there, bring the family, bring the friends. I'm going out there with my daughters to enjoy some famous frozen custard and some good times. And while you're out there, make sure you walk across the parking lot and check out their gift shop, or you can shop for tons of Ted Drewes apparel. You can get gift cards, you can get hats, whatever you want is at that location. Check it out. Ted Drewes, famous frozen custard, just off of Chippewa. Ted Drewes, famous frozen custard. It really is good, guys and gals.
Terry Hendricks Near They Sports Center update brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling. Cardinals back in action tonight as they start a 3-game set at the Oakland Athletics. 8:40 will be first pitch as Sonny Gray gets to start for St. Louis, and Ross Stripling will be on the mound for the Oakland A's. The sports update is brought to you by Soliga Heating and Cooling, independent air standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, Alex walked in today and said, guys, I think we got to talk about it. I said, what's that, bud? Said,
Cardinals offense.
It's going to be great. Thumbs
Alex
up.
Definitely didn't say that.
We got to talk about Ollie's great decision not to play Mason.
We will do that coming up in the Rewind. We'll also give you a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for Cardinals versus the Diamondbacks.
Hopefully to see Mason.
No, he won't be in. Rest. Coming from Oakland to St. Louis, that's tough, man.
Damn.
We probably won't see Mason win. Will we see Drew Bannister, though, Alex, next year behind the bench for the Blues?
I don't think so. I don't. This isn't 100% sold. I don't have any inside information. I'm just the pre and post game host. This is just my thoughts here. You didn't see any changes with this Blues team. Like, yeah, you were a better team than what you were under Craig Berube, but we've talked about it. Your 5-on-5 numbers maybe moved the needle a little bit. Defensively, you were slightly better, but that was because your goaltending was like Vezina worthy. Your power play changed, and I don't believe Drew Bannister had that much of an impact on your power play. I think there's two ways you go with this. I think you're going to see what's out there if you're Doug Armstrong, because if you're him, you got to hit a home run. I don't think there's any pressure on him. Tom Stillman trusts him. Doug's here until Doug decides he doesn't want to be here. But if you're him, you got to hit a home run because I think you do.
So let me rephrase that. Why do you need
Because you have to bring in the right person that can develop these guys into people that are going to take you to a Stanley Cup.
Next year or 2 to 3 years from now?
It needs to start next year. Because if Bolduc's playing in your top 6, if Dean's in your top 9, if Neighbors is in your top 6, if Kessel's in your top 4, you need those guys to take a bigger step. And that, I don't know if it's going to happen under Drew Bannister. I like Drew Bannister. I almost guarantee you Drew Bannister, if his job's not here, will be in the NHL somewhere as an assistant coach until that next NHL head coaching. He's not going back to the AHL. I just view this as, if the Blues do think that this is a 3-year process, maybe you look at it and you say, Bannister's our best shot. But watching how this season has gone and, like, look, yes, they were better, but the inconsistencies were still there. All of the elements that this team struggled with were still there. And this was a coach that came in with accountability and was sitting guys on the bench. I view this as, if you're developing these younger players, this is your opportunity, if you're Doug Armstrong, to make that home run higher. I don't know if it's somebody that's out there right now. I don't know if it is going to be somebody that gets fired from a team after their team doesn't perform in the playoffs. Maybe it is Joel Quenneville, because everybody's talking about it. All I know is I believe the Blues view this as, hey, we made strides this season, but it took us having to fire a Stanley Cup head coach, where we recognize the coach wasn't the problem, the roster was the problem. I believe they're going to need to make a home run hit with this head coach so that they take that big step forward next year.
And the reason that I think things go in the way of Bannister, if you're looking at the reason to hire him, and it really is not really a reason that is in his favor, somebody's got to be a sacrificial lamb and a retool, And I hate to say that, but we've seen it before with the Blues. Davis Payne had a little bit of that to him before they fired him and then went and got Hitchcock, if I remember correctly. I just don't know if you're really looking for, and I understand what you're saying of trying to develop these guys and get them to the next level. I just think that you can bring in a name and those guys are going to develop. I think they can develop by playing a lot next year under a coach that will hold them accountable, which I love that Bannister did. I know the players probably hated that, but I love the fact that he held those guys accountable. I think some of that got lost here in the waning days of Craig Berube, to where he lost that locker room, he lost holding guys accountable, and it just kind of ran willy-nilly on him. I think that if you go the Bannister route, you're basically going that route because somebody's got to be here to coach the team, and you're not in a winning window yet, and somebody's got to be the sacrificial lamb. And I think that's unfortunately what the situation would be for Bannister.
I think that you have to make a decision on what you want out of the next 2 years. If you're trying desperately to win and you're trying to maximize your output over the next 2 years, it's probably not Bannister. And that might be unfair, honestly, to Bannister, because they did a decent amount of winning with him this year. If not for that tough start, they might have ended up making the playoffs.
You're 11 games over 500 with Drew Bannister.
That's a playoff record. The record under Bannister was enough, the points percentage, to be able to make the playoffs this year.
My problem with that is, again, I don't know if that was Bannister. I think that was the players who didn't want to play for Berube got what they wanted and then decided to jump into what they needed to do. And I'm not trying to take away anything from Bannister, because I do believe Bannister has a lot of qualities that match what you want in a team. I don't know if it's this team.
If you're trying to maximize this, I think you've got to go out there and hire somebody else. Now, if that person wants to hire Bannister to be a part of his staff, he's earned that opportunity.
Oh, absolutely.
but I don't know that he would be the long-term answer here in St. Louis. Most likely. There's no shot against him. This is a hell of an opportunity for him, man. He proved he's an NHL caliber coach for somebody at some point. Just don't know if it's here or now. I do find what happened with Jordan Kyrou under him to be fascinating. Jordan Kyrou in the first 28 games of the season had 5 goals and 12 assists. He was a -9. Under Drew Bannister, by the way, that was the entire time under Craig Berube, 28 games. 5 goals, 12 assists, 17 points in 28 games, -9 on the ice. Under Drew Bannister, 26 goals, 24 assists in 53 games played, point per game player essentially, -5. Still a minus, but much, much, much better. And the point per game versus a point basically every other game, that's meaningful. And one of the biggest things that he needed to do was get the most out of Jordan Kyrou. That was the number one job this year, was getting the most out of Kyrou and Thomas for both Berube and for Bannister. One of them was able to do it. Now, that might be on Kyrou, might be on the coaching, maybe it's a combination of all of the above. But if you think that Bannister's the guy, and also if you think that you're going to bring Kyrou back, and he's the guy that can get the most out of him, we've seen him get a decent amount out of Jake Neighbors as well. Maybe he is somebody that you bring back and you kind of see where it goes from here. And 2 years from now, when you're out of the retool portion of this build, that's when you reevaluate. I think they're going to go big game hunting first. And then if it doesn't work, that's when you turn back to Bannister and say, listen, we want to give you this opportunity. You got the most out of our young guys. Can you please continue to do that? And we'll see where it goes from
there. And I think they've already done their big game hunting. I think they know who those players are, and it's a matter of, can we get them hired? Whether it's they get fired, do they want to come here? Are we able to bring them here? I think that's where it's at. The Kyrou one, I'm like you. Originally, I looked at it and I'm like, damn, like you did get the best out of Kyrou. I was looking at both last year though, and this year in the final like 20 or so games, he's been the same player. Last year, in the last 22 games, 12 goals and 19 points and was a -5. This year in the final 22 games, 12 goals and 20 points and a -6. So I looked at it and I'm like, yes, he did better under Bannister. But this is why I always go back to Kyrou.
This one felt different, though, and
that's
the reason why I'm going to say that is because this year you were still in a playoff.
Yeah, you were performing for the playoffs.
That was
last
on
year,
hockey at that point.
Last year was Vrana and Kapanen and Kyrou going out there and playing tic-tac-toe. That didn't happen this year. This was real. What we saw late in the season from Jordan Kyrou, this was just a good player that found his form. And it took him a really long time to be able to get there. He's going to finish the year with a 12% shooting percentage or somewhere thereabouts. That's all right, man. It ain't great. You'd like it to be a little better, but early this season, it was awful. And he just wasn't connecting on anything. For his career, he's around 13. He's a little below that. You'd expect him to normalize a little more next year. If he was at his career norm, he'd be like 35 goals this season, which is where we all expected him to be. So I know that we all get frustrated, justifiably so, in my opinion, with Kyrou's inconsistencies. I think some of that is just kind of like Nolan Gorman. It's frustrating. It's not a profile that's super fun to watch on a night-in, night-out basis, but production is there at the end of the day, even though it drives you crazy for half of the season.
Yeah, the issue with that one too is like it's hockey's so different, man. Like you have to have a lot of players around that to cover up for those mistakes. And Gorman, if you don't have it, you've got 8 other guys that you're going to be able to cover up.
I think it's pretty similar in that regard. Like if you
now for the Cardinals, you're right.
If you have Jordan Kyrou as top line player, probably not good enough. If you have Nolan Gorman as your cleanup hitter, probably not good enough. Gorman's hitting 6th for you though. Good lineup. If Jordan Kyrou is your like 2nd or 3rd option as a winger that's scoring for you, pretty good offense.
Yeah.
The problem is right now they don't have that. All right, coming up next, we're going to give you a chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to see next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash game, and we'll get to the rewind here on 101 ESPN. And now is your chance to win a 4-pack of tickets to next Tuesday night's Budweiser Bash for Cardinals versus the Diamondbacks. Next week is the first Bud Bash game of the season. There's a limited edition Jeff Suppan bobblehead. Text in now at 314-399-9646. That is the Air Comfort Service text line. If you are texter number 25, you will be
Why'd you pick that number?
I don't know, just totally random. And you have the answer to the following question. You'll be going to the Budweiser Bash game next Tuesday between the Cardinals and the Diamondbacks. Earlier today, we mentioned that Nike has made new uniforms for a specific sport. What is the sport that they're making uniforms for that had some slight issues with them? If you can answer that question correctly in your texture number 25 at 314-399-9646, you are going to get the pair of tickets to see the Cardinals.
I would have gone with number 37. It was the number Jeff Suppan wore when he was a Cardinal.
Well, that was another option for you.
Not a big deal.
Alex,
Pick 25.
Cardinals back in action tonight against the Oakland A's. The Fast Lane will be taking care of the lineup game for you guys later on this afternoon. Will we see Ivan Herrera in the lineup?
Yes, we will. I think he's in.
No, I think he's not in the lineup today.
I'm going no as well.
I think
He'll
learned
be in the
from his
lineup on
mistakes.
Tuesday.
I think it's going to be the lineup you saw from Friday.
Will Victor Scott be in the lineup? So for you, yes.
Oh, that's the game you have to play him in.
I think
See if you can hit Oakland.
I think he'll be in the lineup, and I think they're going to continue committing to defense. Right, wrong, or indifferent, I think they're going to continue.
But Mason Wynn will have the day off.
Cardinals win?
Yes.
Sonny Gray on the mound?
Sonny Gray on the mound, yeah.
I think they win today. This is a revenge game. Sonny Gray was in Oakland to start out his career. We'll see what happens from there. But I think they win tonight 4-2 for Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK.
You only score 4 runs against them?
I mean, come on. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Fastlane coming up next. You're on 101 ESPN.